Guys, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. The Bros Giving Gang is back. It's DJ, CJ, Uncle Brent, and we got a very special guest today. We got Victor Cruz, a buddy of mine on the ESU baseball team, part of ESU Strength and Conditioning, and the founder of Suave Athletics. So Suave, baby, Suave, man, nice and smooth. So we got a lot of content coming up for you guys. We got Victor on the podcast today. We got Zach coming on the podcast tomorrow. So we are starting off the new year on a high note. So be looking out for all that kinds of content. We'll be doing some YouTube videos and stuff like that. So Victor, dude, thanks for coming on. So just introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're about.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. I guess first and foremost, thank you for having me.
This is no problem, man.
Cool little office. We got the Cairo set up, everything.
Yeah, we're beating off guests with a stick, so you're pretty high priority, bro.
Yeah, man. So thank you for having me. I guess tell you a little bit about myself.
Go for it. That's all you, yeah.
Do it, man.
Cool. All about you today.
So I'll give you my little spiel. So really the first memories in life for me were carrying a baseball bat and glove. That kind of led me to where I am today. But, I played high school baseball in Westfield, New Jersey, born and raised.
Okay.
And that was when I first, developed my passion for strength and conditioning. Like you said, I'm a graduate assistant strength coach at ESU now, as well as playing on the baseball team. So that's when I first developed that passion my freshman year at a local facility. And, I played high school baseball. I ended up going to Rowan University for undergrad. So I played 4 years of college baseball there. Did a bunch of experiences with strength and conditioning. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I know your dad's at Cairo. You're thinking about doing Cairo. I looked at Cairo, PT, strength and conditioning, and I did a bunch of different experiences in terms of shadowing and volunteering, and on top of playing baseball, obviously. And we were fortunate enough to make a college baseball World Series.
Nice.
That was just last year, right? So that was last spring. Now I was fortunate to have an experience where I interned down at Crese Sports Performance facility down in South Florida, which was pretty cool. It's owned by Eric Crese, who's the director of player health and performance for the New York Yankees. So that was a cool experience for me in terms of just creating my own coaching philosophy and taking that here to ESU and working with athletes. But and that kind of takes me where I am today. I'm a college baseball player at ESU, grad coach, and obviously me and CJ are pursuing a master's in exercise science. So that's kind of my story and how I came up.
Nice.
Yeah, so when it comes to all the guys on the team, especially dudes in the program, like if there's one dude that I always go to talk to just to consult on whether it's a program that I'm doing for Bros Giving for one of our clients or just for what I'm doing, right? So like getting back into lifting right now after taking some time off and being sick there, like Victor's my go-to guy. So I wanted this to be the podcast where it's like, if you love strength and conditioning, if you want to pursue a career in strength and conditioning, whether it's at the collegiate level, high school level, or whether you just want to get better as an athlete or a person, like this is going to be the podcast for you. So thanks for tuning in, guys. But we're going to start off a little bit just talking about some of his experiences playing D3 baseball. So you guys have heard me talk about junior college, you heard me talk about D1, and now both of our experiences, at the D2 level. But one thing we don't have is just a guy talking about D3. So we know some kids that are going D3. We know there's a ton of kids out there that's the route that they're going. So I know there's kind of a bad perception at times about it, but kind of give us your spiel on that, because I know Rowan's a great program. You guys had a lot of great stuff going on there, and of course you made a World Series, which is a great accomplishment no matter what level you're at. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for me, I guess like a lot of guys in high school, I had that mentality of almost like D1 or bust. Right. I was doing anything and everything I could to try to go D1, whether it be a small school, big school, whatever. So
real quick, sorry to interrupt you, but where you're from in Jersey, is that like a big baseball town? A lot of D1 guys or anything, any sport?
No, so I went to a public high school, just the town with me where I was, and we always had talent, but there was more powerhouses if you went to private schools.
Like you guys didn't tangle with like Bergen Catholic and shit, or did you?
No. Gotcha. So we never played those types of schools.
Did you play Wall? Were you near Wall Township and stuff?
No, Wall's down south by the shore.
Okay.
I used to play some travel ball there, but no, we never played Wall. But we were a Group 4 school, so we were a big school.
Right.
So we had some good competition. We saw some good arms, some good players, but it was nothing like if you get into some of that private league ball with Del Barton. St. Joe's, Montville, schools like that. Those produce the guys like that go to Vandy and the big schools. But,
gotcha.
But yeah, in terms of D3, so I was trying to go D1, and I had some looks and going through the recruiting process. And at the end of the day, I took the best baseball school that I could get, and for me that was Rowan University, where they were a D3 powerhouse, and they still are. But yeah, I think that there's a perception of depending on the division you go to. You might not have as good a chance of getting drafted or developed as best as you can. I think what it comes down to is you have to play to develop, Right?
Yeah.
So no matter where you go play college baseball, you have to be able to understand, have a good relationship, communication with that coach first and foremost before you decide to go there, to know if you're actually going to get some playing time, right? So for me, it was, I know going to D3, I have a way better shot if I went to a D1 school. And specifically at Rowan, we have three or four guys that I play with at Rowan that are still playing professional baseball.
Oh, wow.
So whether it be
cool.
independent league or in the minor leagues, we have a few guys. We had 2 drafted my sophomore year. So I think at the end of the day, if they're good, or if you're good, they'll find you, no matter where you go. And make sure you find a place you can develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that I wanted to say, so when we were playing Gardner-Webb, who's actually Coach Jim Chester, because he used to be at Lock Haven, which is funny that he ended up down there, and the coach from Cumberland County Community College is now coaching at Barton, who we're going to go play. But he had some kid, like, all of a sudden we're reading the scouting reports that we're going to be playing them in the spring, and they got some dude fronting their rotation that's like 6'7", and he throws 99 miles an hour. Dude, where did this kid come from? He came from some D3 in West Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's right.
And he came and he shut us down the first game. Like, they beat us one time last year, and it was with that kid pitching. We ended up hitting him around a little bit the second time because we had some real talented guys in the lineup, and we were prepared for it. But just, it's like, what was this kid doing in D3 the last 3 years? Dude, he must have, like, tore it up because it was with the COVID that he was able to transfer and go play D1 ball. But, like, man, like, even at the D3 level, like, you know, being able to play that kind of kid, he was one of the best pitchers we faced all year.
I feel like in baseball and football especially, the rosters are just so big and there's so many schools that, like, some kids are bound to get lost in the shuffle. Like, there's no way you're going to, like, don't get down on yourself because you're like, oh, I'm going D3, I have D1 talent. I mean, it's just bound to happen. Like, look at all the guys from JUCO that go pro and MLB, football who go pro. So just keep your faith with that and keep working hard because some people just get overlooked.
And I always talk about this, but the experience that you make at these places, again, is exactly that. It's what you make. So if you go in and you want to learn and you want to be asking your coaches stuff and you want to put in the work, you're going to take away a whole lot more than baseball, like, at all, right? Like, aside from baseball. So I know being at Campbell, I learned a ton of stuff, and just talking to Vic and everything he knows about baseball, like, we've been working on a ton of infield work to get me ready to play the infield this spring. And he's like, you just, you know, you gain so much knowledge over the year just from doing that. So again, no matter what school you're going to, no matter what sport it is what you make it. And I know I've said that in previous episodes, but if you go in with an agenda, right, you want to learn, you want to do everything you can to get better, then you're going to be getting something out of it. So that's pretty cool. And the next thing I wanted to talk about, so of course you went to the World Series, right? That was super cool. You played at the D3 level. I did it at the JUCO level. But what goes along with that is a certain kind of culture now. Coach K brought us into ESU because he wanted to make sure that the culture was where it needed to be in order to make a championship run. And I think we've done a pretty good job at doing that and integrating a win, more of a winning philosophy, more of a team philosophy. So touch on a little bit of that and how it was at Rowan and how that's kind of who you've become as a baseball player, as being a team guy. Because I know you're a team guy, you're a utility guy. You play all over the place, and you're all about helping people. So tell us a little bit about that. We'll get a conversation going.
Yeah, that was a good question. Well, I want to shoot back real quick to what you guys touched on.
Okay.
So you mentioned, and this was well said, getting lost in the shuffle with all this college baseball stuff and the over-recruiting that's going on, and the COVID timeline, how that adds to it.
It's a big shuffle right now, especially with all those kids. There was like 1,700 kids left in the transfer portal when the fall started.
Exactly. The transfer portal blew up, and coaches are searching for any way to get better at the end of the day. So getting lost in the shuffle, and then that blends right to your point of what you said with making the most of what you have. So, like, if you go into a program, no matter where it is, and you make the most out of what you have, and that can encompass a lot of things. And for me at Rowan, this blends to your other question, was like, we didn't have the best facilities.
Yeah.
We knew we weren't D1, but what we did have is we respected the adversity that we encountered, whether that be tough competition, whether that be
adversity, baby,
coaching hard on us, being super disciplined, having to hit in a cage that had it was terrible lighting, gym floor, and we hit in a net that was white. You have never seen that before in baseball, bro. So the baseball blends in with the net. That was the type of adversity that we deal with, and that was kind of our motto. And this kind of goes to the question you were talking about. When we made it to a College World Series, one of the things was like, adversity, we like it. We embrace it. So
love it.
Whenever we had, there was a good example, like, this kind of goes to our culture. Like, there was a day, we were in a regional in Ohio. This is my senior year. And we had a day where we came together as a team. We just did our pre-game BP, and they had to move all the games back to that night. So we already all got ready. We were ready to play, and they moved the game back to the nighttime.
It's like some travel ball type crap.
Yeah, exactly. Except we're playing the biggest game
playing
of our
a
lives.
domination, yeah, but now you're playing the biggest game of your lives.
Literally the biggest game of our lives, and it got pushed back. And our coach told us, and he was like kind of down about it. He was like, "I wish this didn't happen," and we all smiled at the same time.
Look, let's go.
We were like, adversity.
Yeah.
Oh no! And we brought it up, and we got crazy. And that night we went out, we did our stretch again, and when we were jogging to center, we started barking at the other team, just like dogs. Just an example of like, we don't care what you throw at us. Like we're gonna try to thrive and embrace it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So that blends all those points. Yeah, that's kind of the culture that we built. We don't care what you have, but we're gonna be dogs, and we're gonna piss you off while we win. But yeah, those all blend together. So yeah, that's what I say about that.
And it's funny because a lot of what we did at Campbell, like the theme of how we trained was like military. So we were talking about, you want to be like a Navy SEAL, like just even thinking about it, right? And like once you become a Navy SEAL, like that's what you are. And they tried their hardest to train us in the mentality of that. Like, of course, as close as you could get to it, because of course you're not going to emulate the kind of training that those guys go through. But we had SEALs and Rangers actually come work with us, and they talk about triumph through adversity. Like we gain success through adversity. That even if you don't necessarily achieve your goal, it's working towards your goal as a team and overcoming that adversity that you really find success, that you really find ways to become better men and better people in general and how to fit into society, right? So it's just funny because my one buddy would always say, adversity, good. We would ask, someone would say, what's on the practice plan for today? We'd have these long, elaborate practice plans all typed up. And they'd be like, probably just some more adversity. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, man, we're freaking ready for that. We'd be like, what's on the hitting plan? They'd be like, adversity. Like, of course.
Exactly.
Like, we're just going to go into
That's exactly how it was at Rome. We were wanting it. But that's funny that you say that, like, because some of the most successful people in this world, whether it be strength and conditioning, entrepreneurship, accounting, it doesn't matter. They got to where they are, and they got to be how successful they are because of the failures that they had. So if you're somebody that encounters negative experiences or adversity like we're talking about, and if you can't propel yourself and use that as motivation, that is like a huge factor in terms of becoming successful and being productive in that way.
Yeah. I like that you brought up the Navy SEAL point, because I just saw something yesterday, and this guy was talking to a Navy SEAL, and he was like, how did you guys pick the 6 members for SEAL Team 6, or however many guys it was? And he was like, he put on a chart, and he put trust and performance, and they were talking about how they rather have a high trust, low performance guy on that mission than a high performance guy, low trust. Like, I saw something, it was like, you can trust them with a knife and a gun, but can you trust them with your daughter and your wife or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just about how do you affect the situation with like your teammates, your fellow members, whatever you're in for in the military, and just having that absolute inevitable trust in one another to get something done. I think that's huge, especially at like a D3 level where you might not have the most talented guys, but if you're all coming together as one, like you said, with the pregame hype and the pregame stretch, like that's crazy.
Barking at them.
Like, yeah, you get hype. Like when you know
barking
other
at the
people.
Taliban,
Oh yeah, I'm sure they do. Yeah, but imagine like everyone has that trust in you, and you can't let your brothers down and shit, and it's not just you. Like that's what it's all about, man. I love that.
Dude, that is really well said, because I had these experiences at Rowan. Like I said, those guys that play pro ball now, and nothing against them, they're great dudes. It's just at that time our team didn't click the way it should have, and we had all the talent, right? Those guys are playing pro ball now. We had all the talent we needed. And I was a sophomore at the time, but we couldn't make it out of a regional. Like, we had probably maybe the 2 best arms in all of D3 college baseball. We couldn't make it out of a regional. So it's like, what went wrong? And we learned those guys.
Did one of those? I hate to cut you off. Did one of those kids get drafted?
Well, 2 of them got drafted.
Yeah, wasn't one up to like 98 or something like that, or something crazy?
I think
because I heard about that rotation that you guys had, because I was in junior college at the time, and someone was talking about it. But all right, go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, we had Danny Serino and Andrew DiPiazza. I don't know, name drop them. I don't know. They're good dudes.
Cut it out.
No, they are really, really good pitchers. Super talented. One transfer from Alabama, one transfer from Seton Hall.
No way.
Both went JUCO, and then we got them at Rowan.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, we also had a center fielder from St. John's.
Very
cool. What a roster.
Where'd they go to junior college at? Did they go to Rowan or Cumberland?
It was
or Mercer or something?
Mercer and Cumberland, I think.
Okay.
and then RCGC from the same.
Okay.
But yeah, that was their route, and that's why also the JUCO route I think is a big thing too. That could
Of course, yeah.
give a lot of value to a lot of guys like yourself. But I don't even remember what the heck I was saying. But that team, yes, that team was like, we had all the talent, but we didn't have the team cohesion and the culture. And those sophomores at that time, who were then seniors when we made a College World Series, knew what it was like to have all the talent, but not to be a great team and a great culture. So, like, exactly what you were saying, it's all about how can you trust your teammates. You know, we may have not been the best baseball players, but damn, we were super close to each other. We were brothers.
And that's one thing that I always say. And it's one thing to have hype, right? Easy to have hype. So everyone's the best team in the nation when you're going into at whatever level. Like, everyone thinks that they're going to go out and win a conference, right? It doesn't matter what your talent level is because the hype is there. But hype and talent and work ethic within a team, like, of course, work ethic is super important. But if you don't have the trust between your players, then ultimately the culture fails, right? Because another thing with the Navy SEALs and what some of them, when they came in to talk to us, when there was a mission, everyone didn't raise their hand, right? You didn't raise your hand because you knew that you were trained to the point where no matter what role you were put in, whether you were filing paperwork in an office as a SEAL, or whether you're actually out there executing the mission, or whether you were guarding something, or whether you were just on base, you treated everything exactly the same. So they had this saying, right? Whether you're filing paperwork, or you're actually out there in the field, you were going to do everything 100%, and you were going to accept the role because it's a team effort. And that is so hard for people to understand because you need to be... You need to fall into that team role. And I even said, like, yo, I come to ESU, I don't even care if I start because I want to win a championship. It's carry or bust. And that's what we've been saying all fall, man. Like, we're in the weight room. I'm like, guys, we need to be lifting. We need to be practicing. You need to be treating your everyday life like you want to go and you want to win a championship. And if I fall into the role where I'm not playing or whatever, then I'll be okay with it because I'm about you guys. And it's hard, you know, and that's the role that I fell into at Campbell last year. But honestly, I loved every second of it because that's the culture that we had created. And that was super special. So I know that's some of the stuff that they talk about as a SEAL team. Like, it doesn't matter who goes on the mission, man. It doesn't matter what your job is, whether you're the dude who's taking out Bin Laden or you're the dude who's outside by the chopper just watching for people, right? Of course, you may want to be in a certain role, but you have to get to the point where it's almost indifferent no matter what you do, that you're going to feel the same satisfaction from getting the mission done and that you're going to perform your role, whether it's cheering on the bench or whether it's or unless you're up there, you know, All-American hitting 20 bombs. So that's just something I wanted to talk about. I know I touched on it briefly in a previous episode, but I love that, man. It's team mentality. Team mentality.
That's
dude.
really good. Something that makes me think of is kind of one of the things that I think about, almost like a value, is like how you do anything is how you do everything. So take a second to digest that, and that could go into a team culture and sports, or it could be your life. So how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So if, like, say we're setting up a podcast, right? Making sure the lighting is perfect, making sure the camera's in the right spot, making sure you guys gave me a water when I came in, making sure I have a water when I come in.
Could have got you a coffee. I guess we're just being lazy.
You could have stopped at Starbucks, won't lie.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? I didn't have to have anything, but that super attention to detail on the smaller things in life make those large steps and those big successes so much easier. So, like, if we go into practice at ESU one day and we make sure we get every bunt down in a small, super focused bunt drill, when we're in a conference championship and there's a guy on second with no outs, that bunt drill mattered a lot, didn't it? So, like, that, how you do anything is how you do everything, and attention to those small details, I think, it blends to exactly what you were saying. I believe in that.
So very good. So I think that was a great conversation, but we can kind of flip the script here. We can kind of get into strength and conditioning a little bit more, which is what, you know, the majority of this podcast, or what we wanted it to be about at least. So obviously you're a GA ESU with strength and conditioning. You've interned at some pretty big time places. You know, you're going to intern, hopefully, you know, with an MLB organization this summer. But just talk to us about, you know, you have Suave Strength, right? I don't mean to be all over the place, but you have Suave Strength. That's like your brand, just like we have Bros Giving, that you started. So what was your inspiration behind starting Suave Strength, and what are some of your philosophies that you like to integrate into Suave Strength?
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I think that's a good question. I think first and foremost, and I hope this is true for you guys as well as a lot of people trying to make content, you have to be in it for the right reasons.
Yeah,
so
of course.
For me, the only reason I put things out there is to hopefully help other athletes. Like, it's the best feedback. I put out exercises and a bunch of different things. It's all baseball specific. most of the stuff at least. And when I hang out at a local facility or see my old friends, baseball friends, or whatever it might be, and they say to me, "Hey, I took some of the exercise that I saw on your Instagram, and I've been using them," that is the best thing I could ever hear, because that's actually accomplishing the goal of what I'm actually trying to do. Some people will misconstrue like, "Oh, you're egotistical," or yourself, or it's kind of like, it's all about you and the stuff you're doing. But that's not what I'm in it for. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for that. What I'm in it for is to, hopefully I can help athletes, and also just thinking through ideas or things I'm posting in terms of weightlifting helps me gain knowledge. Right?
I like what you just said, because I think like a lot of influencers, like people just posting their bodies on Instagram, people are like, oh, like he's full of himself, like, because right away,
we were talking about that.
When
we can't just post our bodies.
When you see a gym dude like posting in a freaking sleeveless, you're like, oh, like this dude's full of himself, like ego. But it's just not like what we're trying to do is not that. And I want people to get that message, like listening, or our viewers, like we're here to help you guys. Like it's genuinely not to show off. We don't even get many likes on that type of stuff. So like, if we cared about that, and we truly cared about like, oh, I'm just gonna show off my muscles, like then we wouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like that you said that.
I'd be shirt off in the manor every day, baby.
If CJ did it, the likes would blow up. The likes would blow up. All the girls would be coming. If I did it, I'd lose my account.
No,
they stop coming.
Nope. They ban you. I like that you just said that too, actually, because a lot of people I think have good advice, but they're afraid. They're like, I don't look like Alex Eubank. I don't look like Jack the Italian. Like I can't put stuff out there. And I just want you to know, if you look like, first of all, you look good, so I don't know what you're saying. But
come on, Victor. All about confidence on the podcast, baby.
Someone might, because you're all natural, right? Obviously, like you're not taking weights and stuff. So freaking someone at home might be like, oh wow, I'm gonna go listen to this guy. He's like living a healthy lifestyle. He's reasonable. It's a reasonable goal. Like he's just out here giving advice. He's not worried about like looking like, because let's be honest, a lot of the fitness influencers, and they're starting to come out, are on the juice and shit. So don't have the unrealistic expectation. You can look good without that. Don't think like that's the top goal. But yeah, I mean, if it is good for you and to go that route, but I like that you brought that up.
Yeah, steroids are scary stuff, man. Scary stuff.
All right, well here, just to bring it up real quick, because so you said you actually visited some of the places in Florida, or you just wanted to see the guys who were giving out the steroids, so like A-Rod and stuff in the early 2000s. What was that called? Belco?
Oh shit. I remember something. It was Ryan Braun and stuff too. I remember.
Yep, Ryan Braun. Yeah, so we're talking. So for the people listening, we're talking about a Netflix. I don't know if it's still out there, but it was basically the story of a doctor back in the day that got his degree in Costa Rica.
Something like
came
that,
to the States, and he was hooking up a bunch of big leaguers with roids and programs and ways to actually skip or bypass the PED rules. Well, what was the question? Oh, when I was down in Florida.
Yeah,
me and my roommate. Yeah, so I lived with my roommate who was also an intern, and we were just interested by that stuff. Being in the field. Not that we'd ever take steroids, but being in the field, you're interested in like South Florida's like a hotbed, right? For anti-aging clinics.
Everything, yeah.
That's what they usually label it as.
They say that South Florida is like still in the 80s, like with the like cocaine scene, steroids, all that shit. It's just
party
like,
scene, the Botox, all that stuff. But yeah, we were like, what's up? Because we watched that documentary one day, and that night we were like, wait, those are probably still around, right?
Right.
So we look up all this anti-aging.
Anthony Bosch,
right down the block. Anthony Bosch is the guy. Yeah.
Dude, that's so funny, man.
But we just check them out, and it's weird. Like some of them will just have like, I don't know if you're familiar with SARMs, like the new, almost like the over-the-counter synthetic pill of steroids these days. But like some of them will just have them right there on the label when you walk in.
So real quick, you brought up SARMs. I just want to get this right. Steroids, you're literally injecting tests into your body, right? Like test cells straight in. Whereas SARMs, you're not injecting, like you can take it through a needle, but it's just making the test easier to get to. Do I have that kind of right or no?
Yeah, so I'm by no means an expert in this, but my understanding is steroids versus SARMs, you could take them orally, you could synthesize them and shoot them up either way. I know there's a few different methods with the SARMs, but I don't think it's about as much how you administer it. But yeah, more so about the effects. And I think in the grand scheme of things, like we're younger dudes and we're not really into steroids, and obviously me and CJ are college athletes, so that's not even in the picture.
Yeah,
for us, but like, just in terms of getting popped, SARMs and steroids are in the same class, and that's really all I know about it.
Okay.
But
yeah, I'm still even confused about
what I've always been taught is that SARMs, just makes tests more plentiful in the body. So it doesn't, whereas steroids actually inject, that's why it's faster results. SARMs just makes the like your test cells basically like more plentiful, more like you can get ready to go.
Yeah, that would make sense because some people kind of dance around the whole like, oh, I'm taking some SARMs, but it's not steroids.
It is a form.
Well,
of
you know what's
steroids,
funny? So, what our very last day of class this semester with Dr. Milt at ESU, he brought in a guest speaker, and did you bring up Westside Barbell?
Yeah,
someone brought up Westside.
Yeah, we talked about conjugate. Yeah, I asked him about conjugate systems.
So I went down like a little bit of a rabbit hole last night. I was looking up some Westside Barbell stuff, and it came to the guy who broke the record for bench press. And he doesn't compete in the natural competition, but they were talking about the different federations, how they have like 19 total federations or whatever, 12 test, 7 don't, or something like, or 12 don't test, 7 do test. But he was talking about how the guys who go to like Westside Barbell, they can do whatever they want, but it's all about, like working hard and making sure that they're dedicating themselves to obtaining that goal. He's like, you can go in there, he's like, you can take SARMs, you can take tests, you can take steroids, shoot a needle up your ass, you can be snorting cocaine on the table. Like, I don't even care. That's what this dude was saying. But he said it's all about dedicating yourself and building that, that whole culture that Louis Simmons built at Westside Barbell. So this is what I always say about steroids. I'm like, if you want to be a bodybuilder and you want to compete like that, I know there's some things that steroids can do to the body, right? Especially, my dad being a chiropractor was always, against it, rightfully so. But if you're willing, again, dedicating yourself to something and you're willing to go to those lengths and then you're competing against people that do that, I don't really have a problem with it. You need to take, precautions, make sure you're doing it right. But the amount of dedication it would take to be like Chris Bumstead, Arnold, Luke, even all the guys that lifted at Westside Barbell and breaking all those records, it's not easy. Like, it is not something easy to do, so I don't want anyone to think for a second that those people are any lesser, because those people are dogs, man. Like, people, like, we know people who do it. We see videos and stuff like, dude, what they do, the amount of dedication
it's
that they have
harder
to the
if
sport.
You're on it.
Almost harder.
You can't miss it. You gotta
like, dude, steroids don't make you bigger. Like, they help you recover, but you still need to eat. You still need to show up. You still need to push yourself. And talking about some of the stuff with Westside Barbell, so Louis Simmons really influenced the athletic training world when it came to college sports. He did a lot of stuff with bar velocity training. He didn't have a gym to wear or anything like that, but he understood the concept of it. So he kind of introduced training with bands, training with chains. So I know people like like Clemson and other big time ACC, SEC schools utilize it for football and for baseball. So that's pretty cool. And I think we can end up talking about some of that stuff. Do you have anything to add off of that?
The way Louis Simmons and the barbell or the Westside Barbell stuff is very interesting. It's an interesting way in how you can...
Sorry, real quick. Did you ever watch Westside vs. the World?
Yeah,
on Netflix. You did watch it? Okay, cool. All right, cool.
Yeah, they have a whole thing for their own system, and it's kind of blown up because it is really effective in what it does. But I guess what I'd say about that is what's really cool, and I think what really blends itself to the athlete world in terms of sports performance and for college athletics, like you mentioned, is the periodization of the different style of lifts. So the Westside Barbell will have a max strength day and they'll have a dynamic effort day. So the max strength, obviously, you're pushing 100% of your 1RM, whatever exercise for the day, and the dynamic effort is where you mix in the bands, you mix in the chains. So in terms of periodizing that for team sports and for whatever sport it might be, being able to hit both of those physical capabilities, whether it be max strength and actual speed work, blends itself well to performance on the field, because you need to build a strong base, but at the same time you need to move things fast, because when you do things on the field, more times than not, your body weight and you're looking at speed and velocity. So I think the way in which they periodize the two different days they have, and however you split that up, I think that blends itself really well to team sport training.
Yeah, just kind of tie Brent into this. So Brent has been struggling a little bit with getting his bench press up. And when I was watching some of this stuff with Louis Simmons...
That's the biggest enemy.
Biggest enemy is the 225. And sometimes he's getting it for 5, sometimes he's getting it for 1.
Yeah, it's super weird.
But I was talking about, and starting this week, because again, we were both sick there for a little bit, but now we're back in the game. I was talking about, maybe doing some, I want to do some pin press, I want to do some stuff with chains. I want to do some more of the stuff, that, because Brent, again... when he does his research, when he's watching influencers, they're more so bodybuilding influencers, right? They're not necessarily...
100%, yeah.
They're not necessarily guys who are in the athletic training business. And even the guys who influence, like Jesse James West and all, and those guys like Bradley Martin talks about some of this. But some of the guys who kind of just made their living, out of a gym, like on YouTube, they don't really necessarily talk about a lot of the stuff that Louis Simmons talked about. They don't necessarily talk about some of the adaptations that strength coaches go through at the Division 1, 2, or 3 level in order to then initiate or get some of those adaptations out of their athletes. So that's why I'm saying, like, Brent didn't really know about it. And he's like, oh, like, what's a pin press? Like, what would working with bands do? What would working with chains do? But I definitely think, when you cross some of those up, then you just look how Louis Simmons did it. Like, I think that would definitely benefit Brent in the long run in terms of just getting his bench press up initially, because he works it all the time. Because we know how hard it can be, especially when you're a high school athlete or you're in college and you don't necessarily have the strength training program like in JUCO.
And it's like a mental block too.
Like how do you get past those like how do you get past those blockages or those plateaus? So I remember, it's funny, when I was at my grandmother's, she found like some of my dad's old lifting stuff. And when we brought it down to the house, it had some of his like wraps and stuff when he was lifting heavy in the 90s. But I found a note that he wanted to write to Arnold or someone, and he was talking about getting past a plateau. And it was funny, he was practicing what he was going to write out in a letter. I think he was like early 20s when he really started lifting heavy. But that's just some of the stuff that not a whole lot of athletes know about that I definitely want to integrate some more into my training. Because even when we did it, not to keep rambling on, but when we got halfway through the fall, I know Mark put in pin bench press, and I was like, oh, pin bench press. I'm like, what is that going to do? Because you know me, I love full range of motion stuff. Like, I don't necessarily like going one way or the other, working just eccentric or just concentric. I like the whole thing. But then my bench press went up after that, and I didn't even do 225 on. I was doing like 205 and pushing from my weak point. And then once I was able to get through that, now all of a sudden I'm doing like 245 for a set of 3 or 4. I was like, oh, holy crap, man! Like, I can't believe that worked.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. The plateau is a big area of conversation. I think one of the biggest things, and outside of the gym, so let's take it outside the gym. If you're at a plateau, what is your nutrition? What does your sleep look like? I guess first and foremost, if you're sleeping 4 to 6 hours a night, then yeah, you're going to be at a plateau because you're
which is me right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, and that's what I was telling Brent.
Yeah, which is hard because it's hard to actually create adaptation, actually get better when you're not letting your body recover, because what we're doing in the gym is just breaking us down. What actually makes us better is how well we recover, which is nutrition and sleep.
So, what's your advice then? Because this is a problem for me. It's a problem for a lot of people I know. So, this is like a huge problem for a lot of people I know. People who work like landscaping or just manual labor jobs during the day. So, like right now, I'm loading packages at night and work all night. Very, very strenuous. It's a workout in itself.
He was smacked in the face with a pair of Jordans last night.
Yeah, not fun. Or Air Forces. But
off the conveyor, bang, right in the face.
Yeah, that was not fun. So, what's your advice for putting on mass? Obviously, eat more. But for someone who works out through a manual labor job 8 hours a day and then wants to go to the gym and work out for 2 hours.
Yeah, so you're saying with a manual labor job, especially with the time constraints. The time constraints, that's life. And sometimes, and this is going back to the Navy SEALs.
And this also like relates to athletes too, because you have an athlete who may have, like, especially if you're a freshman or sophomore, heavy class schedule. Maybe you're lifting in the morning, maybe you're lifting at night with your team, but you're in class for 5 to 6 hours a day sometimes, and then you're studying. So there's not a whole lot of time for you to sleep, for you to eat, for you to get additional training and recovery. So I think it just compares to both. So go ahead, Vic.
Yeah, so if you have a manual labor job, I think you need to get enough calories and nutrients in to be able to recover from what you're doing.
And that's what I was telling Brent, yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to be working for 8 hours a day, and then with that, you have to understand the overall volume of what you're doing. So you might not want to do compound lifts 4 times a week because you're always nonstop moving in your job. So maybe one day you have to understand how your body feels. Hey, I'm going to do an accessory day, or hey, I'm going to do a machine circuit day or a recovery day, depending on how your body feels. So I think nutrition in the forefront is going to have to, the calorie intake is going to have to go up just because you're burning so much. And then just understanding your body when you actually get into the gym. And this kind of goes into in-season training. When you feel good and you maybe had a lighter day, you got to sit down and do computer work at your job one day. That's the day, hey, let's push some weight. Let's see if we could deadlift today. Let's see if we could squat today. Versus if you got after it and you were moving boxes for 8 hours straight, okay, let's do some accessory work. Maybe we'll have some arms, some bis and triceps today. So being able to know what is going on and how your body feels, I think plays a role in that for sure.
I really like that. That's a good point.
Yeah, and the number one thing, because Brent was just saying, oh, dude, like, I'm tired in the weight room now. And he's only been working this new job for like 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks.
So when he first started, and of course, it's going to take a lot more time than just 2.5 weeks for your body to adapt, because he's still kind of trying to develop a new sleep schedule. He doesn't get home till 3 in the morning, and he's wide awake when he gets home. But the number one thing I said day one, Brent, and our mom was in the kitchen. I'm like, dude, you need to make sure you're eating enough calories. And Brent's like, oh, really? Is that it? I'm like, dude, like, that is the number one thing. And I just compared my experiences. So I've had 2 main trends that I've kind of gone off of when it came to me lifting in the morning, right? So I'd be at Camel, you know, going to class all day, especially my first semester there, and then we're practicing like for a ton, right? So when I was trying to gain weight and like just in terms of energy, I was waking up at like 4:30, I was eating a big bowl of oatmeal and I was eating like 4 eggs, right? So I was taking that and not doing any caffeine. And honestly, my goal, like my numbers in the weight room, like kept going up, kept steadily climbing, and I had energy doing it. So when we were there that summer, I was getting up like, you know, big bowl of oatmeal, eggs. I was eating once or twice before we even got into the weight room at like 10:30, and my numbers like skyrocketed. And then last year, I really enjoyed lifting at times if we had a 6 a.m. lift where I would lift fasted and I would do a little bit of caffeine. So I know we talked about caffeine in advanced exercise physiology this year with Dr. Davis and how it kind of pushes that, what is it, like the lactate threshold, like it pushes the curve a little bit to the right.
Caffeine's going to be mainly have a better benefit for aerobic or long distance training, and the research out there now on caffeine proves that pretty well, but what it doesn't prove as well is anaerobic capacity or aerobic power, which is that short distance, like you have that one deadlift or bench. The research is not great on that, but hey, I'm a caffeine guy. I'm on caffeine right now.
Now I'm eating eggs and I'm doing the caffeine, so it's double whammy, dude. So, and then what I was going to compare that to was that when I was in junior college. So in junior college, I wasn't doing a whole lot of carbs. I was big into the keto scene. I was really trying to get my mental health up, and it actually worked. So I could talk about that another day. Don't have research, but I have a little bit of evidence to support it. But I was getting up, I was doing coffee, right? I was doing a fat bomb coffee. I was doing a little bit of coffee and some butter, and then I would go and I would run, and I'd go on the treadmill. I was going on for like 30, 40 minutes, and that was like my morning routine. And that's what I love to do. I would do a couple miles at varying intensities. But then, of course, when I got into the weight room later that day, like my strength numbers were just not going up. Whether it was bench, whether it was squat, right? I was working full range of motion, but I was stuck at 188 pounds. I obviously wasn't consuming enough. But then just the amount of aerobic work that I was doing, and we talk about, you know, mTOR and PGC1 alpha when we're working those two different kinds of energy systems, or when it comes to muscle building, and I was really struggling with that. So again, those are just my two experiences from one extreme to the other in terms of eating before lift, just doing caffeine before an aerobic lift, and how that affected my anaerobic performance.
Yeah, if you think about the physiological adaptation you're trying to chase. So, for example, if he's running every morning and then he's trying to get strong and
this is not going to work
and build muscle later in the day. Yeah, it's really hard to chase.
You would need to up your calorie intake like tenfold in order to do that, just to make sure you're recovering.
Yeah, and even so, with a lot of calories, you're just not being optimal in what you're trying to train. That's the concept of periodization, right? It's just like chasing adaptations at specific times to build the most you can out of it, and then move forward onto different things. It's like, and then if you break it down even further with the pathways, I remember we talked about this one day, but I'm not as clear on this as you are, but to my understanding, if you open up that mTOR pathway in aerobic training early in the day, that mTOR pathway stays open in terms of how you deliver nutrients, right? So then it's harder to build that strength.
Well, so yeah, it's weird. So actually, I think what they say to do, if you have to. They don't necessarily recommend it, but of course, cross country, track and field, they're going to be doing a decent amount of running where their lactate threshold in terms of intensity is pushed, their VO2 max is pushed, right? Past the 70% of your VO2 max, that's pushed. So you know you're getting that intensity in early in the day, all right? That a lot of times, depending on whether you're a long distance track runner, like 400 meter, cross country, or whether you're like a 100 meter sprinter, right? If you want to get the most training benefits, they say train aerobically in the morning. But then they say you need to take ample rest time in between. They need to make sure you're getting enough calories, sufficient calories, but then you're not lifting until the later part of the day, because then you can open that mTOR pathway and then actually recover to where you're receiving that adaptation. And of course, you know, we can bring Dr. Moyer on here and he could talk all day about it. Like he'll give us a 3-hour lecture, because I want to make sure, you know, I'm not screwing this up. But if you were to open the mTOR pathway earlier in the day and you would do strength training, you need the recovery time. Because when you're talking about aerobic training and actually building muscle, right, stimulating muscle growth, achieving hypertrophy, right, muscle regenesis, you need to make sure that you have the rest time, that you have the calories in there, so that when that mTOR pathway opens, you're getting the full benefit. Because if you open the mTOR pathway, now all of a sudden you're going to go try and do aerobic training, you're going to go run a couple miles trying to actually push, and you do push past that VO2, 70% your VO2 max, then all of a sudden your body's like, all right, now we need to open your PGC1 alpha, and that interferes with mTOR. So that's why, you know, especially if I was running in the morning and then I wasn't getting ample rest time and I was trying to lift, it just wasn't working out for me. Now again, like I had some really good years in junior college. I'm not trying to, knock on that. But I think I got by on a lot of natural quickness. Like, how I am, right? So, yeah, that's my take on that in terms of
I think it's definitely possible. And you think about people like, I don't know if you know these guys, but guys like Nick Bear that I like. He's a former Army Ranger. David Goggins.
Nick Bear. Yeah. Is he a fitness influencer on YouTube?
Man, he's huge on everything. I mean, he's an entrepreneur.
Is he a kid? I think
he started out, I guess, as a YouTuber. He was still in the military at the time. I started following him way back in the day.
Yeah, hybrid athlete. Yeah,
so he's awesome. Yeah, so right now he's training for more like triathlete, 100-mile runs, those crazy stuff like that, but he still weight trains on a weekly basis. So from what I understand from seeing some of his stuff, and he's really good at exactly what we're talking about, being able to do the aerobic and strength training at the same time. He's like mastered it because he's been doing it for so long. But yeah, he'll do his running or cycling or whatever, or swimming, usually earlier in the day, and then he'll do a weight training session at night.
Yeah,
the volume's usually never crazy, but he's still huge. But he's just
some people just got it.
Yeah, he's got it. But he's an animal.
Because we were talking about this a little bit, so me getting back to training, especially after taking 4 to 5 weeks off, and we were talking about like the body's need or the body's ability to maintain strength. Over a period of time. So that I don't really know how that relates to what I'm going to say, and that's definitely a conversation I want to have in a little bit here. But what do you think the volume needs to be, or what do you think the minimum volume is that we need to achieve if we're just working on primarily like intensity, like we're working like 1 to 2 rep stuff, like if we're a power athlete, right? And we want to make sure we're building muscle. What's the nutritional requirements? And then what's like the minimal volume that you think we need to achieve, whether it's superset, rest redistribution, anything like that? Because I know some people can lift like 1 to 2 reps and then they can get pretty jacked. They may not be as chiseled as they want to be, but they can get pretty huge. But it's just then what does your nutrition, I feel like it needs to be a little more spot on. Because that's almost like what Nick Bear does. So can you lift 1 to 2 reps, right? Be more a power, speed-based athlete, right? Maybe you have like a minimal volume, right? You're really working your compound lifts. You're really going heavy. You're eating a ton, but then you're also running however many miles in the morning where you can then burn that fat off. So is there a combination that we can achieve, right? Where we're running in the morning, we're burning off fat, maybe we're intermittent fasting, eating a ton of food the second half of the day, training at a super high intensity with a lower volume, and then restarting the cycle early in the morning to then achieve what we're trying to get. Because I feel like that's how it would have to work, right?
Yeah, this is almost like a golden question.
Oh, damn, dude. Right there.
Right? Mind blown. This is like the golden question. If I had the answer to this one, I wouldn't be here. I'd be in the
you wouldn't be on
Olympic,
our podcast.
I'd be in the Olympic Training Center somewhere, right?
You'd be training with Bumstead.
But this is
you'd be training Bumstead.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you'd be telling Bumstead what to
do. Yeah, but that's a great question, dude. Wait, so rephrase that one more time.
Okay. So question. Obviously, if you want to gain muscle, right? You want to gain lean muscle mass. Obviously, your volume is going to need to be a little bit higher. You're probably training anywhere from
like how many sets?
60 to 80% your 1 rep max, and your total volume would need to be what? 24 to 32
reps?
I
got it. How little can you do?
Yes, volume
while still maximizing benefits.
Because we want to look like Nick Bear. We want to look jacked too, remember? Yeah. So obviously then we have to eat enough because you need to replenish the muscles. But then if you're not doing the high volume, then how are we chiseling the muscles down? How are we burning fat?
Yes.
Then then that happens in the morning then when we're training hard, endurance-wise and aerobically.
So how little can we do in the weight room while still maximizing benefits? And this is a concept I'm working through, and it takes experience and practice. I'm working through with my women's basketball team at ESU right now because they don't want to be in the gym for over 30 minutes, 45 minutes, right? They want to focus on getting their output on the court.
Yeah. So which is primarily the mindset or the common mindset that a lot of field and court like athletes have. So not so much baseball and football, but more so basketball, soccer, lacrosse. So that's just their mindset. Not women's basketball in particular, but most field sports. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
Yeah, and respectfully so, because we're not weightlifters, right? We're baseball players.
Yeah, we're athletes.
Right. They're not weightlifters, they're basketball players. But there has to be a give and take there because strength conditioning offers so much benefits.
Yeah, and they have a high aerobic capacity, right? Because they're sprinting all day long. So rightfully so, their energy is going to be a lot lower than a baseball player who just took some ground balls and took some BP. Not to say that's what our practices are, but yeah.
But getting back to your question, so the way I think about this and the way certain physical capabilities fall off, So this is well researched, and I think it goes back to like the Russian old Soviet stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
But strength, you hit a one good strength workout, or 1RM or whatever it might be, that strength and whatever that number is going to hold on for about a month. And it depends on the training age of the athletes, and something a lot of people don't know about this study, which is like well regarded in how we train athletes. That study was done with Olympic level athletes. So a D2 college women's basketball team strength might fall off in 14 days. Right? But it's a good way to at least have a scale. So like,
especially the Soviets, they probably weren't running a whole lot, and they had a needle up their butt most of the time.
Exactly. It was included in their program in the warm-up.
It was just high chocolate training program.
Yeah. But the way I think about it
is interesting.
Yeah, it is.
That's like Simmons.
The way I think about it is, so if I know strength falls off every 30 days, I want to touch. And for the women's basketball team, it might be different, right? And it depends on their schedule. But maybe if I can hit like 2 really good strength days in a whole month. So like a movement I feel comfortable with, which they're well trained with already, say a trap bar deadlift. If I can get above 70, 80% on a trap bar deadlift, and I can do that twice in a month, I'm pretty happy with the way their strength is sticking. And for example, since I allowed so much time for that strength base while they're doing so much on the court, for example, earlier this week I had 2 girls PR in trap bar deadlift all time. And that's
really?
They're in the middle of a season.
Oh, wow.
They're in the middle of a season because I backed off on strength. Focused on more power. Focused on more speed work.
Speed work.
Knees, ankles, hips, breaking down some of the
like 1 to 2 rep range. Kind of like that. So wait, what was your total volume then at this point in your phase? Or well, first of all, did you start this more speed training in the preseason or once you got in season? And then how did you manipulate the volume as you progressed? And then as you manipulated the volume, of course, now you're working 95%, for 1+ whatever during this little bit of downtime. So, I mean, talk about what you were going to talk about, but I also want to hear that.
No, that's a good question. So I want to make sure they're acclimated. So I want to make sure when we're in season, I want to work with exercises that, 1, they're used to, and 2, I could prescribe proper reps, volumes, load, things like that. So like that first 2 months, which is not a lot of time before a whole season I had with them, I focused on movement quality, technique, and all the important exercises, squat, hinge, press, pull, and I also focused on at least a decent foundation of strength. Because this way I have a really good precursor of technique and movement quality to then work on unilateral, side-to-side rotation, speed, whatever it might be, right? So first and foremost, acclimate them properly. Movement quality and strength, and make sure they get a good idea of kind of the exercise.
Yeah, for like all female athletes too, I think that's super important. That's how, I'm training my sister right now, like acclimation phase.
Exactly. So I think that serves its purpose in the forefront. And then when I kind of get into the season, so this was a thing I had to play with. And kind of what I'll get at is where I'm at now. So just this week we started some pre-practice lifting, and this is a concept I think of as microdosing. So if you think of a macrodose, you throw a lot at them and you create a lot of soreness and stress, and then hopefully over time that adaptation increases, right? So microdosing is just small little hits. So for example, and this is something I got from Corey Schlesinger. He's currently with the Phoenix Suns. He's their head strength conditioning guy.
Was at Stanford, right?
Was at Stanford, and this kind of blends into PJF. Paul Frabritz is a popular basketball trainer too. So those are the kind of go-to guys for me, which I've learned from to kind of help with what I'm doing with the women's basketball team. But so it's this concept of microdosing. So I'll throw small hits at them. So like, for example, earlier this week we had our lift on Monday. We had a game on Wednesday, right? So I don't want to make them too sore, but I also want to get a training effect. And this was the day. We haven't hit heavy lifts in almost 3 weeks, so I knew this was the day because we have a busy schedule of games midweek and weekend coming up the next 2 weeks. So I know I had to make sure I hit some kind of strength. This is the only day we could do it. So I'd have a block of almost like introductory stuff, like even like kind of get their minds going a little bit. So like if I get on a pull-up bar, and I don't even do pull-ups, I just move side to side like monkey bars. Well, that's kind of a weird exercise. My upper body and my shoulders are fired up. Okay, I hit my upper body, it's good enough. Keep in mind, this has to be under 20-30 minutes because I got to get them in and out, and they're going to practice. So get on the monkey bars.
At least it's before practice. That's what I say. At least it's before practice.
So that's something new. So like, get on the monkey bars, do something like, ooh, how am I doing that? And then let's work on some landing mechanics. Make sure we're landing in good positions. Huge for basketball players. Pretty underrated. People can jump high. That's great. Work on your vertical. But if you can't land, you're in trouble.
And that's when you start seeing a lot of issues with ACL not even just with female athletes, but with male athletes. Like I know a bunch of people who got their ACL injuries as basketball players, so maybe they, definitely a low training age if they haven't even trained at all in high school, where they land wrong and then all of a sudden, that's when the all ligaments in the knee just kind of, rip apart, explode.
I like that you brought that up though too, because like even today I was doing pull-ups and like holds, and just that motion of, cause I go to failure, right? So I'm on there until I drop literally, but that ringing you get in your ankles when you drop to the ground, like suddenly, and you hit the ground, like So you have some advice on that, or like how to prevent that and make that better?
We can go into a lot here. Well, with the women's basketball team, because the ankle complex, it plays a part in all sports. But you think about basketball, the ankle complex and the joint is really, it's important, and people know that in basketball, but it's undervalued in terms of what it does and what it's made up of. It is comprised of some of the most bones and joints we have in the whole body, right? So like, we also think about the shoes we have on right now. We have a protective layer with our socks, and then we have shoes that have a heel and have all this support, right?
And then you also take into account the curvature of people's feet, whether they're flat-footed, whether they're inverted or whatever.
Yep, their gait cycle and how they walk. But you're depriving your feet, and now I'm getting into barefoot training. I don't know how this happened, but it is. And now
we're not bad about it.
Think about my hands, right? I could feel this table. Like, I could do all these things. I could feel that water bottle's cold.
You like that table? I made that table. That's my grandfather.
Bro, it's homemade. I could tell when I touched it. That's what I'm talking about. You know what? That's proprioception, my friend.
Yeah.
Right? So I have proprioception in my hands because we're always touching things, all this stuff. So, like, the way I think about our shoes and our feet, if I was to go and type on a typewriter or type whatever with gardening gloves on, how would you be able to type on that? You wouldn't know where your hand is. You'd be touching all these buttons, right? You'd have no sense of what you're doing. That's proprioception, right? So when we have our shoes and socks on all day, every day, we have these gardening gloves on when we type.
Dude, you just blew my mind. It's like a 3 a.m. basement conversation.
And that's a good analogy. And I stole that from the people I was talking about, PGF. But that's
Mark with the Village Fitness, which I can touch on a little bit. Like he's big into that. I know you just did a workout with him, and that's one of the things you primarily worked on. And dude, in all of his training videos, because people have been reposting them a lot, I'm like, dude, why do all these people in bare feet? Like, because it's funny because there's this one of our coaches in junior college. And he's the basketball coach, not the strength coach, right? He tried to run them through strength the best he could for a junior college coach, but he's like, training barefoot in the weight room, don't do it. It's not a thing. And even with what Mumford said, Mumford and Davis, when we were in our lab, like it's a liability waiting to happen, and it's totally true, right? It really is. You don't get your skin sucked off on what is it called, a treadmill, right? But all right, keep going because it's definitely some benefits to it.
Yeah, you'll hear that everywhere. I mean, with any training method, no matter if it's great, bad, indifferent, whatever, there's always going to be people that think differently about it, and that's just that's some of the ways of just how it goes. But yeah, what I was getting at, so like we have shoes and socks on all day. We have sensory organs in our feet, just like we have sensors how I can feel different materials with my hands, and we're covering them up all day long. Back to the caveman days, they didn't have that. Yeah. Right? They were able to feel the ground and feel the earth with every step they took. So like we're taking so much away from how we feel with our feet, and how does that affect us? That affects all those joints going on in our ankle. And then what does motion start with? It's ground force, for how we translate force from the ground up. So if you just think about it from that kind of on a small scale, like I want to be able to feel things in my feet, so then I could get my joints moved properly in my ankle, and then I could transfer forces up the chain. Right, that's the first step. So if we're depriving the first step of really movement, especially when we talk about basketball, and we never feel our feet and how we feel things, I don't know. But that's kind of how I think about it. And the women's basketball team has been training with no shoes for a long time.
All right, so like the big thing I want to talk about was we know several girls who were great basketball/soccer athletes.
It's like tragic stories, bro, when you hear it.
All either ripped their ACL at least one time, and some of them multiple times. One even both ACLs,
Dude,
right?
I know one chick who tore both of her ACLs twice. We have, our cousin's going through some stuff right now where she's had 2 ACL surgeries already, and as a result of the physical therapy that she was put through, now she's having problems with her meniscus, of course.
This might not have a correlation, but all these girls excelled in their sports. Like, so they're like, think of them as the main ball handler, like the main, like, basically top scorer. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but What's your thoughts on that?
I think that does have something to do with it, and it's funny that you mention that is because usually what makes you different or unique is what makes you good at sports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like the fact that they had an injury ended up having to them means there was something missing along the line, but that something missing, whether it be ankle range of motion or their hips were too mobile or whatever it might have been, probably is what made them really successful at the sport in the first place. So I guess that's an important point to mention. That really blends itself to working with high-level baseball players because they're freaks in terms of range of motion, but they're really good, and it's hard to keep them safe. But your question, ACL stuff, okay, so what I'll say is, like, first of all, this happens at all levels. So even if you're with some of the best trainers, some things are just bound to happen. I think there's something, and this is just my theory, I think there's something hormonally that's going on with females and the way their hips are set up. So we can go back to like Q angle, the angle at which the femurs come down. So if I have femurs come down like this, females naturally have a tighter Q angle because of birth-giving hips, right? So that provides a certain angle at the knee joint, which is valgus pointing in.
Yes. Which you notice that you notice that in a lot of women too.
If you just watch their gait cycle, right? But that predisposes them to some knee stuff, so it could depend on that and some of the hormones. But in terms of, and this happens at every level, right? So I don't want to think anybody's doing anything wrong, or don't take my words.
Yeah, it happens to everyone.
Yeah,
and don't take my words.
More so, female athletes, but we're discussing and trying to figure out why. So
yeah, we're just spitballing, right? So like, don't take my words and
spitting on the mic, man.
Yeah, don't take my words and just go and okay, I'm gonna do a training program for an ACL now and what he says. But like some of the things I try to take into consider, because obviously working with a women's basketball team, you have to take knees into consideration. And unfortunately, we have had some knee injuries while I've been the strength coach, which is terrible. But that's a learning experience, and that's things you can move.
And again, not necessarily because of you.
No,
not by any means.
Yeah, not at all. It's just I was a part of the process, and it could have been a lot of different things, whether it be chronic or acute to chronic workload. How much stuff were they doing on the court? How much were they sleeping? But some of the things in terms of training that I think are important when it comes to preventing some of the ACL stuff is, like I said before about the ankles, it all starts from the ground up. So if you have limited ankle range of motion or mobility in certain ranges, however you want to test that, that means you're not transferring forces from the ground up. What's the next joint it's going to hit? It's going to hit the knee. So if your ankle's off, then things are happening at the knee that you don't want to happen. And then if you double up on that concept that I'm running with, you have ankle limitations, you have hip limitations or deficiencies, then what's taking all the brunt of the movement and the rotation? Your knee, right? So you have to think about the ankle and the hip and the way things work up the chain. 2, I think hamstring strength. If we talk about quad to hamstring ratio, it's well studied. And I wouldn't speak well upon like the percentages and things of that nature, but like usually females are going to have more quad dominance in everything they do. So the way that affects the knee is like we'll have tibial displacement. I don't want to go too much into it, but we'll have bones moving ways they shouldn't be because of quad dominance versus we activate and engage our posterior chain more. We tend to solidify things better at the knee joint. So if we talk about quad to hamstring ratio, make sure you're hitting posterior chain. Posterior chain is king for team sports and athletic movements, in my opinion. And then one thing I'll touch on is just when you train them, if you were to train girl athletes and you're trying to get them rid of ACLs, some recent research has come out that says if you train on different surfaces throughout the year, throughout a timeline, it actually has really good benefits. So like if you're doing sprints on a track one day, that's great. Next week, let's sprint on the dirt outside. And then after that, let's work on some grass. And then let's hit the hardwood. So being able to vary surfaces, some people think it's kind of scary, and the stuff with turf is interesting.
Right.
But if you vary surfaces in your training and, acclimate and accommodate accordingly, that has shown to provide some pretty good benefits in terms of injury reduction too.
And one thing that I'll definitely say about this, and this is something that our dad is actually pretty big on. We'll have to have him on to talk about all this kind of stuff. But let's think about high-level female athletes in high school, right? Even in college, when they're on their own, right? They don't have a training program. What do they typically do in their free time?
Did you say college athletes?
Well, high school female athletes. When they work out, what do they typically do?
Yeah, that's scary.
Well, think about it. What do they do?
That's scary.
They do one thing. They do one thing. What do they do?
They'll probably do some bridges, try to get some booty gains or something.
All right. Besides that, what's the one thing that they do?
Squat.
No, they run. Female athletes in high school, and this isn't everyone, right? We're just talking about stuff that we've seen, information that we've gathered, right? Issues that my dad has seen with patients coming in. When what they do is when you're running a ton, right? You're activating particular systems. When we're talking about PGC1 alpha, we're talking about mTOR, right? And you run and you run and you run, and then all of a sudden you're going into a field sport, right? What did you really do, right? You increase your aerobic capacity, right? You have way more endurance. You have a surplus of mitochondria, right? You're able to process oxygen at a high level. But what's one thing you didn't work on? You didn't work on cutting. You didn't work on insulating the knee. You didn't work on the landing mechanics and the jumping mechanics that you just discussed, right? So you go from that, right, and you run and you run and you run, and all of a sudden your legs, become a little bit weaker. You're not doing any strength training. Now all of a sudden you're starting to do cutting sports, right? You hit your preseason, and now all of a sudden everything hits you at once. You start having knee problems. You start having knee pain, and that isn't alleviated throughout the whole season because they're not like pains that you just started doing something again. They're pain because something in your knee or in your hip or in your ankle or in your foot is not working correctly. And then what do girls do once they get the ACL surgery and they're now cleared to do stuff on their own? What do? They run.
They run again.
They run again, and the cycle repeats itself. So some of these athletes that I know had multiple ACL surgeries. They weren't strength training in between these injuries. They were running, and they were good runners. Right? Some of them ran cross country and won medals. And then they go on the soccer field. And when they were healthy, they were the best player on the soccer field or on the basketball court, right? But it was so hard for them to stay healthy. And it's like, did we change what we did in between? Did we do the right kind of strength training? If you did, strength training, were you training more volume-based or were you training more bar velocity-based where you're actually trying to get stronger? You're trying to develop power, right? Yeah. So that's just one thing. Because we know that just because you're training, you have a higher volume, right? Because a lot of, women, when they think about, training, again, not everyone, but a lot of times, what the thing is, I want to be ripped. I'd rather be more ripped and toned. I don't want to get bulky. Mm-hmm. Well, the bulkiness, first of all, it's going to be a long time before you get bulky. It's a harder thing to do. But
I've been trying to get bulky for 10 years.
You are bulky. I love when girls refuse to train upper body because they don't want to be bulky. I'm like, you don't even know.
That's where the benefits. Well, it's like that's where the benefits come, especially when you're training your lower half. And I think it's essential. Like I think weight training for females should kind of stray away from stuff that's more high volume based to strictly power. So what I'm doing with my sister right now, I'm trying to do the best, trying to acclimate her for college field hockey. And of course, with field hockey, there's not as much cutting, right? It's probably provides the least amount of stress out of all the field sports, especially for women when it comes to field hockey. But I skipped because how my brother and I trained, we did like a 8 rep phase, we did like a 12 to 15 rep phase, and then we dropped it back down to 3 reps. I'm not even training her in the 8 to 12 rep range. I'm going right to the strength phase. We're going right to 6 reps, right? We're going to try and add some weight on. We're going to drop down to 4 reps before I then progress the program any further. But I want to make sure you have strong legs, right? We're doing a ton of landing mechanics. Right, we're not jumping so much that we develop shin splints, that we develop issues with our lower half, but I want to make sure that you're ready for the college level, you're being stronger, and you have better landing mechanics.
Yeah.
That's number one for me as a coach.
That's really well said. And going back to that point of just girls running in high school, which is so common.
And if that's not you, we're sorry. Overall.
And I'll start this by saying I'm not hating on running. I think and long, slow distance running is great, especially.
It's good. Yeah. It's good for a lot of reasons, right? Our main professor at ESU literally runs marathon after marathon, and she's like the healthiest person, but she also doesn't go and play soccer then in her free time, right? Yeah. She doesn't go play 3 hours of soccer a day. Yeah. So it's just different things for different people, different training methods.
Exactly. That's all we're doing. And it also depends on the demands of sport. But like if you think about, say we have a female athlete that aspires to play college athletics, and if you think about her total training workload and everything she does outside of sport is just long, slow distance running. There's probably some things we want to work on in terms of how she moves and what she does. And all she's going to do in terms of running is compress, redo the same pattern, redo the same pattern, redo the same pattern. So if we talked about ankle stuff a lot. If she has something what I don't like about her ankle, if it's like she has no arch and she's pronated, could lead to problems, all she's going to do is be pronated when she runs. So she's going to compress and replicate that strategy of moving over and over and over, and she's going to get stuck in it. So like in terms of getting into the weight room, and I think this blends itself really well to like a concept called acute to chronic workload. So like say your sister, she's going to go, if she didn't do any of this training with you and she went to Ball State, it is, right?
Yep.
She went to Ball State, she didn't get any experience in the weight room or any experience of high level like plyometrics and cutting and stuff, and just did running. Like for example, this imaginary female athlete we're talking about, and she didn't do any of that. Her acute workload, which is like what happens in a short duration of time. So her acute workload when she gets the ball state is going to go boom, skyrocket. One of the biggest indicators of injury, and this is why so many freshmen get to school in college athletics and get injured, because their acute workload went boom. I've never done this before, and now I'm spending 10 hours on the field, and I'm spending 5 hours.
Yeah, that's for everybody. That happens at every level.
Everybody's going to have to deal with that when they get to college, but the better you can prepare them for that, which is exactly what you're doing, is going to allow the chronic workload, which is chronic is long and in duration over time. If you can get her started now, her chronic workload in the weight room and the things you're working on are building. When she gets there, there's just going to be a spike in acute, but what she's going to have is she's going to be ready, right? If you just go and send it into a weight room, the acute's going to spike and bad things happen. So in terms of chronic workload, which is what I think about, which is what made me think about this, I think you're putting her in a good spot in that realm as well.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I'm just trying to help her out, and weightlifting's fun. So the benefits of that you especially see from adaptations, like the first 2 weeks that you're training, of course, go through the roof. So and that's huge for confidence. And I remember when we started lifting, we did some lifting with the 8th grade basketball team back when we had 7th and 8th grade basketball. Our coach literally said, Coach Post, man, he said, this isn't gonna give you beach muscles. What it's going to give you is confidence. Like, you're not going to get beach muscles from lifting in here. I'm 5'11", full of muscle as it is already. I was like 140 pounds soaking wet. But they were like, hey, it's going to give you some confidence. So I remember I would go and I would do, we would do all the leg machines. We would try and max out, like, the machine leg extension.
Oh, God.
But we would kind of just angle our legs so they were already straight. We would just push. Yeah. And then we would do just leg extensions until, like, our quads, like, pop. And then we'd run out on the court, like, oh, dude, I feel like I can jump so high. And I could jump pretty well at the time, so we'd be going up. I'd be, like, throwing the ball off the rim, acting like I was about to dunk.
I'm glad you just said that, because some guy the other day, I wasn't Bumstead, but it was some big influencer, and he was like, if you're doing a machine the right way, you're never maxing it out. And I was like, that's so true. I hate when people go in the gym and like, oh, what's your max pull down? Like, what? Yeah. No, like that's always a rep thing. Yeah. Like, I don't, nah.
Yeah, they should be smacked for just even asking about that.
Maxing out on a machine.
What's your
Because, in high school, we all did it, bro.
What's your close
What's your leg press? Who gives a fuck what your leg press is, dude? Like, you gotta do that shit the right way. Like, that's how I look at it.
Yeah. I have not trained, I'll be honest, I have not trained much with machines, like, ever in my life. Because you just look at, like, generally, like, they say free weight training has better involvement in terms of whole body stability and stuff. That's why, like, when you talk about team sports and performance, like, a lot of people tend to use free weights. It's like, that's something I'm interested in. Because personally, I want to get on some machines. And
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Like, I love machines just for, like, the ISO movements. So, like,
isolates it.
You get me on pull downs and shit, or rows. One arm rows where I'm just like feeling the movement, one arm in and out. So that's why, like, because some of the guys I follow when I first started lifting were all about machine work. Like, they lifted in gyms with one bench, so they kind of learned how to use the machines and shit. So I think machines just give you that concentration, contraction, whereas like some of so like when you're doing a row, it works. It's gonna work everything, right? It's gonna work back. You're even gonna feel in your biceps, right? But it's not the same as doing a preacher curl or something where it's focused. So I just think that if you're like in a bodybuilding phase and you want those beach muscles, machines are super important, and that it gives you that focus and that concentration.
I like that. What do you think about mind-muscle connection? Do you ever
much better on machines, I feel like.
Yeah, so when you lift, especially when you do high reps, and it's like those grinders, you're like, wow, I don't want to do this anymore. Do you really think about like your muscle actually growing, like some of the stuff Arnold Schwarzenegger
100%.
Yeah, that's dope, man. See, I like that, and I haven't done that. I'm more just like, give me the smelling salts and let me try to get this bar.
Right.
Yeah.
So here, real quick, all right. So a lot of times, and we talked about this a few times. We talked about it in Milt's class. We talked about it in Warriors class. A lot of times, we don't really train athletes for aesthetics at all, right? We don't train them super high volume, right? We don't want them to get bigger. I think football is really the only sport that really trains their athletes to get bigger, but a lot of times they're not necessarily getting ripped, but they're getting like big and they're getting bulky, right? Because that, you need that to play football. But when you talk about all this, you talk about the mind-muscle connection and all the stuff we've been talking about, right? Because I think you can almost use machines as a training, like the pin, bench press, like bands, like chains, right? Because you can overload it, and then you can work at a lower weight, which is still higher than what your previous 1 rep max is, right? Because you can work 110% on a machine or 120% on a machine of what your 1 rep max is on flat bench, right? Because you go on a machine, now all of a sudden it's stabilized for you, and you can just
like incline press machine.
Like incline press machine. Brent's over there doing 4 plates on each side, and then his regular, bench or incline bench press for one is like 225 for 1 or 2 reps.
Yeah.
So, do you think that there is any benefit to training? I don't want to say aesthetics, but training some more of the mind-muscle connection stuff. 12 to 15 reps, working it in to a college strength program for, say, a baseball player, a soccer player, or whatever.
Yeah, I think in terms of when you think generally and the way you want to periodize the way you program and train athletes, you want that. This is kind of what you're talking about, training to failure in that 8 to 12 plus rep range. That's going to be hypertrophy. So you're chasing muscle mass and muscle growth. Because what happens when you can put that muscle on, and however long your phase or block is, or however long you're going to do that, you put a good base of muscle on, however much you put on, then you use that to actually help in strength and get higher 1, 2, 3 rep max lifts, put more muscle on to produce more force. And then you think about the muscle you put on, the force you can now produce. Now you go do velocity-based training, and next thing you know,
100%.
Next thing you know, you're 10 pounds heavier. You're producing however many more newtons of force, and now you're doing it fast and on the field, and you're in season. So that's kind of generally how it works. Put on muscle.
And hypertrophy is a little bit tougher because, of course, when your coaches want your players to be 100%, right? They don't want them really feeling sore. Of course, being sore is something you're going to have to work through in the fall, right? Because you're working towards, getting yourself ready for the season. So especially in baseball, there was a bunch of instances in the fall where we're super sore, right? And sometimes our coach would be like, all right, I know you guys had a rough week in the weight room. Maybe we'll dial it back here. But of course, when you're training hypertrophy, you may be sore more often. But then I think back to, and of course, these guys use steroids, so the recovery was through the roof. You have McGuire, Bonds, Sosa, but even guys today, who aren't using steroids, at least, that we think, Judge, Stanton, these dudes are huge, right? They obviously train to hypertrophy in some respect, right? And they're still super efficient movers. I know we're comparing some of the best athletes in the world, right? We're using them as examples, but why can't people do that at a lower level? I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah. Well, genetics, I think, one. We all know genetics.
Of course.
Does play a role, but yeah, I think they have a good strength conditioning professional backing them, and they probably do a decent block of hypertrophy. And I don't know at the level they are now. When you're in the big leagues like that and you're established, and I kind of started to realize this when I was at Crese, they're so focused on longevity and injury prevention more than they are in speed and hypertrophy.
Especially in baseball,
right? They just want you to be healthy for 162 games, right? It's so hard to do, but yeah, I assume, and definitely younger in their career, I don't know about now, but an hypertrophy block was definitely used. I think anybody, any strength and conditioning professional would use one if they think they're doing the right thing and it's the right timeline. What else did I have to say about the machines? The machines.
Back to machines.
It's funny that you said that because I have a women's basketball player with an ACL, like I was talking about. Unfortunately, it was a season-ending injury, right? But I've done everything I can just to keep in communication with her and hope everything's okay. So she wants to lift upper body what she can do, and she's awesome. She's fresh out of ACL surgery, and next week she's trying to do upper body lifts. I'm like, dang, that's awesome. I'm definitely going to support you because you're trying to get after it, and you have a great work ethic. I have to respect that. Right? So I was like, what can I do? What can I do? Machines is perfect because she can just put her legs however they want to be, and it isolates certain muscle groups like you're talking about. So I would have no stressors in terms of putting any kind of workload or any kind of ground contact on the knee. So that just makes me think of so many of the applications of things that are undervalued about the machines.
So we can kind of flip the script now. So we talked a lot about female training. We talked a lot about the lower half. We talked some adaptations about machines. So let's talk, we can get one more topic in here, and then we can go to some of the stuff that you've been writing down and everything. So when it comes to periodization, right, obviously, when we train for aesthetics and then when I train for baseball, and of course, I know you're big into bar velocity. I know that's how you do a lot of your training, right? How would you consider periodizing the whole gaining weight? What rep range would you stay in at first, right? Would you do periodization, reverse periodization? What do you think has the greatest benefit for college athletes, especially young college athletes, or even people who are beginning to train aesthetics? I know that's not as much your forte, but I know you still understand.
I would put it like this: you want a beach body, right? Summer's coming up. You want to look popping on the beach. What a gun to your head? What's the rep range you do and the set range you do if you want to be big? If someone says 8 to 12, 3 to 6, 12 to 15, what is your If you
I
had to
would
put
do-
money on it.
Okay, if I had a gun to my head, I would do 5x15, probably 3 different blocks of exercises.
5 by 15.
5x15.
Really? Okay.
If I really had to do it and I had to get big and juicy, I'd probably do a 5x15 with maybe 6 exercises total.
Okay.
And some kind of light warm up to just get blood flow.
So 5 by 15, you're looking at 75 reps of volume per exercise times 6. What's 75 times 6?
I don't know, but it is going to be a
Big number.
Oh, 150, 300, 450, 450 reps.
Yeah, it's going to be
A day.
It's going to be a ton of volume, and if you're not trained well enough to do something like that, even if I went and I had to do that for a month of training 5x15s, I'd probably get hurt in week 2.
You think?
but if you ease yourself up, so like say you weren't as trained as well, same concept. Do a lot of reps and superset those exercises. So like a push and a pull. Say I do a dumbbell bench and a dumbbell inverted row on a bench. So I'm gonna push, I'm gonna pull, and I'm gonna do it with dumbbells. I'll do 3 sets, 4 sets of 15 if you need to ease into that type of 5x15 craziness. But that's crazy, and I've never done anything like that.
I might go into that because I have dabbled in that a little bit.
What does your training look like right now? If we're talking about aesthetics, I know you said you train to failure, which I think is hypertrophy in a nutshell too.
Yeah, right now, like today's.
Not doing it right now, but he has.
Today's
especially.
back workout was 4 sets of 12 barbell row, 3 sets of 15 pull downs, 4 sets of 12 row machine. What are these called? Straight bar.
Pull down.
He kind of like straight bar press
straight
downs.
lats?
Yeah,
Lats, yeah,
straight
yeah,
bar
yeah.
pull down. That was 4 sets of 12, and then I went into arms. That was 4 workouts right there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So then I went
think.
into biceps. I did 4 sets of failure of I'm trying to work on my vascularity. So of just holds on the bar. So like I would do like 5
So like
pull-ups or
isometric
just-
holds he's
right.
talking about, yeah.
5 reps of those, and then last second hold. Try to hold it for like a minute or whatever, and then I would go into incline dumbbell curls. So that was 4 sets of 15.
Do you superset anything, or do you do one exercise for all
Go
sets?
one at a time usually.
Interesting. Is there a reason why? Or is that just kind of like you've always done it?
I just feel I have supersetted before.
Yeah.
And I think the mind muscle is a little. I think when I go superset, I get a little crazy. I'm like, and I like that.
Okay.
Just like bang, take your time. 1, 2, 3.
I can see
I
that.
like
Like, we're
concentration.
talking mind-muscle connection. Like, if you stick with one exercise and you're trying to bang it out and really think about that muscle,
That's me.
That
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
Because like in between sets, I'm not like I'll go on my phone and change music, but I'm like in there to like talk around. You know what I mean? Like I'm like thinking about this set's coming up. Like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna move this.
People, get off your phone in the gym.
Yeah.
That's how I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Get off your phone.
I am on it if you catch me in there. Like I am on it changing music, but I'm just changing music. I'm not like
We're in there
scrolling
checking on
stuff, so-
Suave Strength.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
know what landmine press we should do next.
Get off the phone, people. People, if we work out and we're checking Instagram and we're checking Twitter and we're texting people back during a workout, what you're doing is working out. What you should be doing is training with a purpose and with a goal. So get off your phone, put the phone away, turn it off, and go train and chase down a goal. And do it day by day, right? To me that's what training is. Training is chasing down a goal and getting after it 1% every day. And then working out or lifting weights is like, all right, I'm gonna be on my phone, then I'm gonna row something, and then I'm gonna be on my phone, then I'll do a push-up, right? That's just why I think about it, like working out versus training.
And we're talking about like the 5 sets of 15, right? Like if you had one workout or one plan, that's what you would do to get big and juicy. And I always see people talk about, and even like famous influencers, so you can't argue with them, or doctors or whatever, who say don't overtrain. I will say this right now: my chest did not grow until I did a crazy amount of sets, like you just talked about with incline, man. Like I did Alex Eubank.
No.
I did his chest program,
Okay.
and it's chest 3 days a week. So it's not ideal, but my chest was a bird chest, so like I had to do something to fix it. Nothing was working.
A bird chest.
A bird chest for the birds.
You can eat a bowl of cereal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a guy like that. But his plan was, I'd go in 4 sets of 15 incline dumbbell, 4 sets of 15 incline press, and then it would be like 4 sets of 12 flat barbell. So it's all benching movements, and then 4 sets of 20 either chest flies would be, or whatchamacallit, what's the machine where you're like closing in like this? It's kind of like a fly. I guess it is a fly machine.
Like an angle, okay.
So it was always 3 days a week, 4 sets of 15 to 20, and it worked. I'm not gonna lie, it worked. And maybe it's not ideal for some people, but at the time I was training 4 sets of 12 before, so I was able to adjust easily, I guess you could say. And I didn't get hurt or anything, but yeah, that's what.
And at the end of the day, that's the concept for hypertrophy, and we're trying to build muscle and look good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to swear by 5 by 15. To some degree, I just threw that out there,
Right.
Because that's a ton of work.
Mm-hmm.
But like everything you're saying is 3, 4 plus sets for 8, 10, 12 plus reps, right? Do a lot of reps and do it a lot of sets. And also, I don't know what your rest time looks like, but it's shown if you limit your rest to like 1 minute.
It was 1 to 2 minutes, and it was usually 1 minute.
Yeah, perfect. For when we're trying to look good, if you limit your rest to 1 minute and just do a lot of sets and a lot of volume, that's really how you train to look good. And there's a time and place for that for every athlete.
Right, right.
And all right, so next question. So we already talked about this a little bit. We said we were going to go over like a little bit more of an in-depth plan. I'm already kind of like, progressing forward with it. So I had 4 weeks there where I wasn't able to train right. Lost 20 pounds of muscle right off my body. So we said that the body, and this is for the most elite athletes, can maintain that strength. As long as it's touched for up to 1 month, right, without it then being touched again. So for someone who's trying to get back into it, trying to gain weight back, right, especially when we got a season like right around the corner, what is your recommendation for me in terms of how I should progress reps over this? Because a lot of people are getting sick right now, so I know it's definitely a problem. Like Chris Bumstead just got COVID, and then he got something else.
Flu or COVID,
he lost 28 pounds, so he's starting to get back into training. And especially when you get the flu, man, it wipes you out. So you kind of have to build your body back up. So what would you recommend?
Yeah, and I think
in your opinion.
Yep, I think this goes back to acclimating to a degree, and also when we talk about the strength fall off and the power fall offs over time.
Yeah,
you also have to know you just had COVID and the flu and all this stuff. So in terms of immune response and what's happening physiologically, there might that wasn't taken into account in that research. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
that's true. Yeah,
that could be way different. But from a general perspective, the way I see it is, it's been a while since you lifted, right? So what I would do is, and this is kind of a blanket term, but work capacity. Well, get some work capacity and acclimate yourself back into it for about a week, or maybe 2. So like what I mean by that is like 3 by 8 reps. 3 by 8 reps of every
that's kind of what I've been doing. Yep. 3 by 8 reps of your favorite exercises. Have fun with it. Get ready to do what you plan on doing after the 2-week acclimation. So just a 3 by 8, super simple. Start to get in the gym again, and this is a timeline where like we have a lot of baseball training going on. Baseball training is taking a precedence over lifting right now. That's kind of where the stage we're at. So you have to understand, if baseball training is going like this, our strength training cannot be going significantly like this either, right? They have to some degree, the strength has to even out, and then our baseball volume is going to go crazy. So that's something to take into consideration. But I would acclimate 3 by 8, super simple, get back into it. And then maybe, I know you love to touch strength like every week at least. So, and you mentioned to me you retested some of your lifts. I like that idea, just because we don't have games. So like, to see where you're at, I'm cool with that. But I'd kind of get back into, if I was to do it, I'd acclimate for a week or 2, and then I'd focus on speed. We're about to be on the baseball field. What are we going to do when we're on the baseball field? We're going to move fast. Move fast, yeah. We're going to move fast.
We're going to move fast with our body.
Move fast, swing fast, yeah.
Yeah, and be able to do it rotationally.
So do you think all right, so after your full fall of training, I was up to 405 for a 2-rep max, 425 for a 2-rep max on the back squat. Do you think it's worth it for me to try and push the tempo here, push the fact of trying to get back to somewhere close to that weight before we get back into season February 14th? Do you think it's worth it? No. Yeah.
Simple answer.
Yeah.
Simple answer. I think there's such a precedence put on strength, and at the end of the day, like if you put a video, like I put up a video of me deadlifting heavy one day from a team lift, and that gets a bunch of views because it's lifting heavy and it's high intensity, right? That's cool, but you have to think about the demands of the sport. So if we're talking about baseball, the heaviest thing we touch is our bat. And what is our bat? 2 pounds maybe?
Yeah, that's
Not
true.
even, right? So it's great if you could, and we both can squat and deadlift the house, right? A lot. But that's great, and that serves a really good foundation in terms of other things we could do. But we're not put under load on the baseball field. What we have to be really good at the baseball field is being really strong on one leg and being really good at rotating. That's what we do. We load one leg and we come out of it and we rotate while we do it. So if you can be strong on one leg and you can rotate really well, a lot of good things are going to happen on the baseball field. So in your example, like I'd start moving things fast. I start moving things fast on one leg, even maybe some ISO work. And rotate, man. We got to rotate.
Yeah, we got to rotate, bro.
We got to rotate. You got to be good in the transverse plane. And that gets back to the 3 planes of movement. We talk about this a bunch. In the sagittal plane, if we squat and deadlift, we're in the sagittal plane, right? Everything's forward. We stay right here. Baseball is played in the frontal and the rotational or transverse plane. So we have to be able to move side to side, and we have to be able to rotate.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's undervalued when you train baseball players. So you're going to get them super strong in a squat and deadlift, which may have its place. That's not going to really transfer directly to the demands of what we're going to do throughout the whole season. So that's what I'd say. Some acclimation and then start rotating, man, and getting strong on one leg.
Yeah. And I think definitely what I'm going to do is, because what I also hate about in-season training, right? We want to move stuff fast, right? We want to be able to keep our power output where it is, right? So we test it by vertical jump. We test it, whether you're using a gym to wear with squatting, right, or different movements like with the bench press, or you have a jump mat and you can do pogo jumps. There's a million different things that you can do with that. But I hate not necessarily training to keep our body mass. And I know eating has a lot to do with that, but when you have a person who's a lot leaner, right, so it's easier for a dude who's, let's say, 10 to 15% body fat to keep it on during the season, because all he really has to do is eat. But if you're down near 4% like me, if I'm not lifting a certain way, then I'm not going to keep that muscle. So I want to be able to figure out a way where I'm still training to move things fast, I'm rotating, right, but I'm still doing something in a rep range to where I can keep the muscle on my body. And of course, eating, if I'm not eating enough, then all that goes away right away, right? But I want to make sure that I'm doing something that's keeping the muscle around. So during the fall, I was training, and of course this is in the fall, and I continued to get bigger and stronger, right? Ended the fall right around 203, I think, on one of my heavier days. But I was ripped up. But remember, I did like not a super heavy, but I did a hypertrophy lift in the morning, like for back and buys. And I remember it was during our scout day, and as I was taking BP, my forearms were tightening up, and I had great rounds, man. Dude, I was launching the ball. But dude, I remember, I was like, dude, you need to keep your arm like this, because if I stretch or if I move back like here, it's gonna cramp, and I'm not gonna be able to move. So I don't want to get to that point.
I hate forearm cramps, dude. After a heavy arm day, oh man.
Dude, I got it while we were playing basketball the other day. As I was guarding Tyler, I was literally running around the court with my arm straight because I couldn't bend it. As soon as I bent it like that, it would go.
Oh, dude, yeah. So people look at you like you're crazy, and it's like, dude, you have no idea what's going on.
Thank God we won that game, because I sprinted over and I chugged like half a thing of water, and I just sat there.
Yeah, I remember when you were like, where's the water?
Where's the water? And it worked. It helped me out, dude.
That's funny.
For a little bit there, man, if I bent my arm like this, it was just and I was trying to play basketball, so of course every time I dribbled, I was in searing pain.
Yeah.
But
that's too funny. I know that exact feeling. You walk around like this all day after a good arm day. Your arms never extend.
And it's awesome, man. I'll be sitting in class and I'll flex my forearm too hard, and it's just.
And you want to like jump while you're in class, so you gotta like stay still. You're like
fun. Yeah. You're like, fun, professor. I have a question about this. All right. So that was all awesome, guys. So I think let's just get into a little segment here. I wanted to talk about some of the fitness fads, right, from 2021. So we had a lot of stuff with quarantine, people working out inside. We had different diet fads come around, right? We had different, apps that emerged, and of course, different influencers. So we want to do something that's going to relate to you guys, all of you guys. That's not necessarily just athletes, right? So let's go ahead and we're going to talk about some of the fitness fads from 2021. So one, training with one of those mirrors.
Which one?
Training with you have like Peloton. You have the one that LeBron James does, where you're working out in a mirror, right? It's in your home, so you can even say working out at home. So let's talk about that for a second. How do you feel about your trainer, right? People working out at home. I hate it. First of all, I hate it. I know COVID was a different circumstance, right? And if you have super low immunity and you are high comorbidity, well, of course we want to exercise to help get rid of that comorbidity, to mitigate the risk or mitigate the risk. But I'm just not really a fan of working out at home, especially you are college athletes, right? Especially working out at Campbell in that atmosphere. What we've been able to accomplish at ESU in the weight room, that's what I'm used to. But then even if the gym's empty, I'd rather go lift at an empty gym than work out in my basement. And we have a pretty good setup in our basement, so yeah.
I'm with you. And I think the COVID timeline was interesting because really anything anybody could do to stay active, do it. Like
Yeah.
whatever it was, I know, and things weren't the best at home. And I did, for the first time in my life, I was doing makeshift workouts with 25-pound dumbbells, and that was it.
Mhm.
And a basketball hoop in my backyard, right?
Yeah.
So how could you make a workout from that? And like that was super cool for me, just like training that way and learning things as I go.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you know, whatever you could do during COVID, awesome, do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think in terms of what was I doing that time to actually get better was like, I remember there was this crazy video, and I think it's on my Instagram somewhere. There was a picture like a car, right? And you go up under a car like this,
Mhm.
and as if you were to do like a sumo deadlift.
Yeah.
I did sumo deadlifts,
Mm.
ISO sumo deadlifts from the bottom. With
Did you ever
cars.
get the car up? Did you ever get it
No,
up?
it just it lifted, and like the suspension.
what type of
The
car was it?
suspension lifted. It was a pickup truck.
Oh, okay.
The suspension lifted,
Little kid
but
might
it
be able
didn't
to
move.
force that shit up.
Yeah, it made for a cool video, but like that was just the things you had to think of to try to get some kind of training effect. But also that time was a really good time because people were always people were complaining, and I know a lot of bad things happened during COVID. People were complaining about the circumstances, and at the end of the day, it was an uncontrollable. It is what it is, right? So like, what could you do to get the step ahead against those other guys that are playing baseball? Like
Yeah.
from our perspective,
Yeah.
right? What could you? That was a great time to jump ahead, and that's why I think I had such a good year at Rome, because during that COVID time was the hardest I ever trained in my
Yeah.
life, probably. Even though I didn't have the resources,
Yeah.
you know, what was it good for? It was a good time to do sprints.
And there was nothing else to do. So like, what was your excuse? Like,
Yeah.
like working out.
Exactly.
like,
Man.
priority.
If you were
Yeah,
just going
man.
to sit there and complain about the things going on in the world, yeah, there should be discussions about things going on, and you know, create solutions and things like that. But you can't just complain about it. You have to go out. You have to go out and make action every day. So like for me, what was it a good time for? To work on my speed. I can work on speed on a grass field anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I might not have a squat rack, but I have turf, I have grass, so that was a great time for me to actually, you know, get after some of my speed training. But like that's just a way to think about it, right? So in terms of working out at home, that's what it brings me back to. The quarantine time and kind of what I did. But at the end of the day, as long as people stayed moving, and we all know the research with like just staying physically active and mental health during a time like that played a role too. So that's what I would say for that one.
Yeah.
You can stay active. Bro.
Yeah, physical activity is just everything for your mental health. Like,
Yeah.
never mind like how your body looks. Like, dude, I would go to the gym just for what it does for my brain, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and my thoughts. When I'm in the gym, I am never more confident. Even if I'm not having a great lifting day, even if I fail like 225 or whatever. When I'm in the gym, my head is in such a good space. I'm thinking clear. I know what I want to do. I'm more confident about things. I just think that people need to start lifting for that reason too.
Yeah, and it's hard to get in the gym. Everybody knows that. But once you leave, you feel like Superman.
Mhm.
You did your work for the day. You know, you're super satisfied. So
Yep.
I think that's something people got to think about before going to the gym. Know the feeling you're gonna have when you leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I love all the input on that actually. So that's really good because of course people were in a million different situations, didn't really know what to do, but people found a way. And here's the thing, guys, like even CNN just came out and it took them forever to a minute. And I don't mean to get political, but they finally said like, hey, exercising, living a healthy lifestyle is one thing.
Jesus, took long enough.
that helps, you know, mitigate the risk of getting COVID-19 and dying from COVID-19. Not necessarily getting it, but dying from it, right? So obviously, man, so fitness is super important. So get out, move your body, do things that are tough, right? David Goggins, man, you don't got to go run 20 miles, but maybe half a mile to start.
1% every day. 1% every day.
All right, so what are some other, all right, so caffeine before you lift, especially pre-workout. So so pre-workout or caffeine, because I know the pre-workout game right now is super strong. Even with Bang's coming out with new flavors like every day.
Every day,
The
man.
Rock came out with Zoe. Zoe's taking the world by storm.
I do reviews.
Aspire Energy.
I do energy drink reviews on
Dude,
my
yeah.
Instagram.
Dude, we should have did one today.
Dude, yeah.
We should have did one
I
today.
would've-
Brent,
Alright,
are you
well,
kidding me,
I have a
dude?
feeling this won't be his last time on here, so we'll get something going.
No, he's got you coming on every week now.
I'm part of the crew now. Now I'm just here.
Bro's getting
Where's my
Suave
bed at? Where's
Strength.
my bed at? I'll just set it up.
We got a couch.
I was gonna say,
we got a couch.
I'm
so
on
don't
the
get a
couch.
Get a pillow.
There's a kitchen. It's over. I'm bringing in the steaks, the white rice. It's over.
Oh man.
Oh, let's go,
do
man.
it. I'm like,
All right, so pre-workout. What do you think? Have you ever? All right, so you got the Jocko pre-workout, right? So Jocko Willing came out with a whole line.
Love Jocko.
You taking?
Jocko's
Have
good
you ever
dude.
taken pre-workout?
Of course.
And you drinking like a Bang before we lift, right?
Yeah, I've had it all, man. I've had it all.
So what's better?
I'm at the point now where I it's kind of funny, I guess, but I drink coffee for educational purposes and knowledge gaining purposes, right?
Okay.
And then outside of that, I'll usually just have an energy drink when
Okay.
I'm getting ready to do my baseball or lifting.
that. Yeah.
What's your go-to?
My go-to, well, I bought a case of one of Bang, one of Monster before I came down here.
Dude, if I took both of those before work, I'd be like, blah, blah, blah. Like that's how I am with Bang and Monster in particular. I can't work out if I'm going to do those.
Yeah, and now I'm caffeine tolerant because of all of it. Because
That's I'm the same way. Yep.
Right? So
I'm
we
the
don't
same
actually, we probably don't even get the effects of actual caffeine increased performance anymore.
Right.
I know I probably don't because I just have had it so long now. And now I just feel like I need it to live.
It's like water. It's like
more of an
water. Yeah,
addiction.
it's like water.
Almost more of an addiction and warding off.
You watch your mouth.
Well,
No,
I'm
with you.
You're right.
I'm with you. I have too much caffeine.
Wait, so you just got to take more caffeine. So
More caffeine.
one Bang, it's a Bang and Jocko. Well, dude, some people do that on a regular, dude. I'm like, dude, I don't know how you.
Oh, you got the Jocko Goes? Is that what you're talking
Haven't
about?
tried it yet. It was his actual pre-workout. So what I want to say on pre-workout is everybody told. I don't want to say it didn't work for me because it did. I was a little more concentrated, a little more like pep in my step, and it carried. Instead of like helping me hit maxes, and more so helped the end of my workouts when I was tired, it kind of gave me that extra like limp. But I never got over the itching. And some people were like, everyone always said like,
Yeah, dude, that's
dude,
nuts.
just give it a week, you'll be fine. Dude, no, I always freaking was like rubbing my face, and then I got acne worse.
It's
I was always rubbing my face in the gym,
man.
You can't help it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I never got over the itching. So I always thought now I'm like always just caffeine, like you talked about.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of C4, classic.
So I went in for an appointment for my stomach one time, and I was just chit-chatting with the doctor. And I thought my heart was speeding up from an energy drink, but it turns out it was gas from like the stomach problems that I had. It's weird. Like, dude, I was freaking out. I thought my heart was like gonna explode, but it wasn't beating. It wasn't my heart beating. It was like a gas buildup in here. So I asked him, like, so what do you think about like energy drinks? And doctors, especially MDs who deal with this kind of stuff all the time, with people having problems from overuse of caffeine, they say like, well, energy drinks really aren't bad. You don't want to overdo them. You want to make sure you're staying under the 400 milligrams a day, which is like the daily recommendation from the CDC and the FDA.
That makes me feel better about myself.
So, but they say like pre-workout, they're like, stay away from that. They're like, they did studies on Marines over in the Middle East that would take pre-workout like before they left because they were they're bored over there, especially when they were stationed over there. The last 30 years of our military's history. But they said they found some crazy stuff with pre-workout. So I don't really know like what's in pre-workout and what's in an energy drink that claims to be pre-workout. What's the difference and what makes you itch? Like I've never itched after drinking an energy drink, but Brent takes Jocko once and all of a sudden he's like a rabid animal.
Dude, it's almost. I've tried 5 pre-workouts.
It's all
in 4 of the 5 I've itched on. Yeah,
but that's crazy.
And the one that I didn't itch on didn't do anything for me. I was sitting in there like.
Interesting. Do you know which one that was?
That was cocaine.
That was cocaine. No, I think about it. I didn't want to say anything. No,
I think the itching effects.
Brent has never taken cocaine.
Never.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. I think the stuff that makes you itch is the beta-alanine. It's one of the
beta-alanine.
Yeah, beta-alanine is one of the stimulants in a lot of pre-workouts, and that usually makes you itch. And it's funny that you say it kicks you up at the end of the workout because beta-alanine is actually an aerobic or longer duration. That's what its effects are on versus the short term. So like after you get through the main lifts and stuff, and you finish the workout strong, that's that beta-alanine and that itch probably
really
coming through.
It's funny you said. I like that you said that because a lot of my friends take it to hit maxes and stuff, and it never helped me with maxes, but it did help me with those. If I'm doing 5 sets of 15, on the 5th set, it did freaking like carry me through those last couple of reps. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but I think the pre-workout.
Dude, you need to come back and we need to do an energy drink review.
Yeah, we could do.
Let's do it like next week.
Okay.
We'll get like a Bang, Rain. Like we don't have to sit to drink them.
We should.
But we can each like sip.
We're drinking them.
Yeah, blindfold.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Dude, my Tourette's is gonna be banging me off the walls, bro. I'm gonna be going freaking nuts.
We better do it like in the. We need to do it like
we gotta bring like Richard in, like a farm who knows about all the ingredients, so he can just sit here and like rip
he's
us
like
apart
there
for
with
taking it.
what's the thing that revives you?
Oh, the
defibrillator.
Defibrillator.
Like ready to go.
We're ready to go, man.
Disclaimer too.
Dude, that's gonna be a YouTube video.
If
We're gonna line them up.
You guys ever think I'm dead? I'm just passed on the ground. Open up a white lightning monster, and just drip a little in my mouth. I'm waking up, dude. That shit is magic.
Lived off of white lightning. Our coaches lived off of white lightning at Campbell, bro.
I just had one today.
Lived off it. They would get the big like 16 packs. Like they had like part of the team budget where they would go out and they'd get like monsters with it because we were allowed to get food. But they would go out and our coaches were drinking like 2 a day. Sometimes
some people
like
are
of a double header, dude. I'm sitting there just, dude, this is like the most nuts thing I've ever seen. And our fridge, like, so we had a fridge and you were allowed to put whatever you wanted. And of course we had our snacks. We were sponsored by Gatorade, so we had our Gatorade stuff. We had like yogurts and fruit and fruit cups and like usually leftover food from the team meal the day before. But then the right side of the fridge was all Monster. It was Monster and Bang. Because, dude, we had 45 guys on the team for a doubleheader. Dudes are walking in with 2 Bangs, and we were putting them in the fridge, dude. We are fully, like, addicted to caffeine. It was so colorful. I wish I took a picture of it. But it was like, the most insane thing, man. So, that's cool. We're definitely going to follow up and do, like, a YouTube vlog of testing out energy drinks.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna test our vertical jump. We're going to take the gym nowhere from ESU.
Oh, yeah. Then you go, that'd be anaerobics. That'd be a cool study.
And we're gonna make a thesis out of it, and then we're gonna become doctorates. That's gonna be like our doctorate study.
Some people are just so anti-Monster from the freaking way the bottle shaped with the 666 or whatever, all the way into the effects of it, or like everyone, because whenever people see me drinking a Monster, they're like, oh, you know what? I had a nephew who died from Monster. You know, everyone says that shit.
I feel like everyone knows someone who's died from Monster. I feel like everyone has a story about it.
Yeah, no, shut up.
Yeah, no, you probably died from
Monster. What you didn't know is your nephew was doing coke every weekend on the side.
All right, let's chill.
Yeah, Here we go again. Nah, I'm playing, but everyone freaks out about Monster, but I'm fine.
But yeah, let's not scoop pre-workout and then drink a Monster, right? That's the moral of the story. All right, next one. Lifting with a shirt, modest dressing in the gym, opposed to like crop top stringers or no shirt in the gym. What do you think? Like oversized tees as opposed to no shirt. What are we thinking? And of course, this is more so. Well, actually, goes for girls too. We'll just speak about guys because I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole.
I'll tell you this: on upper body days, I like wearing a cutoff.
Yeah.
Okay. You're old school, man.
I don't. If I'm gonna work out shirtless, I'd like to be like by myself. Like the only time I worked out shirtless in my life, really, and it just saved laundry, which was great, was when I was home for quarantine. Like I was saying, because I was in my backyard. But I would never go to a gym and take my shirt off. But honestly, weightlifting and the stuff we do, a lot of it is about how we build our bodies. So when you're doing it and you want to see how you're building your body, I think there's some validity to that, and that's why I like to work out in cutoffs when I do upper body training.
Okay.
But at the same time, don't be weird about it. Don't be a jackass. Don't be a jackass. Okay, don't take your shirt off and go to the mirror and do your bodybuilding poses.
Dude, my dad rips us for the amount of time we spend flexing in the mirror.
I'm not gonna lie, dude.
Our dad rips us because he didn't have a mirror when he was lifting in his garage in the 90s, and like a lot of gyms didn't necessarily have mirrors, so my dad kind of rips us for it. And like rightfully so, I spend way too much time looking in the damn mirror. Dude, it's so bad we have a mirror at ESU in the weight room.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
We're mirrored out over. Oh no, we have the one big one.
Dude, it's terrible, dude. I'm like literally over there. Well, I like it for squats. It's good, right? I like being able to see.
I think there's a lot of benefits to mirrors. We'll get into that,
but when you got a bunch of guys in there that are trying to get after it and are trying to keep the intensity up throughout the different training blocks of a collegiate of a college lift, right? Because you have to keep the intensity up. You can't be taking those lifts slow.
Sure.
We don't need guys hitting a rep of deadlift and then doing like their push-ups and then going over the mirror and being like.
Yeah.
Like getting a quick flex in. Like I'm guilty of that. Like I'll do my push press and then I'll just be like,
yeah. And
I'm like, dude, I have abs, so I'm like lifting up my shirt.
Oh my god.
Oh, the old wipe the sweat off the face.
I don't.
I've seen that too many times.
I don't even.
From him.
I don't wipe sweat off my face. I just lift my shirt up and I look.
That's what we're joking though. Like, I'm just wiping sweat off my
walking
face.
into the back and I'm just like. I know they saw it. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't actually.
See,
done
I'm not gonna. I look at myself a lot, but I'm not like flexing. I'm just like this. Like, I'm just like putting my shoulders back, like looking in.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see how it looks. Right. See if my work is paying off.
Right. I'm not actually like. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what though? But you are a little bit like that though. I'm not gonna lie. You'll be in there. You'll be.
Yeah.
I laughed like just doing it. Like,
I'm about to start lifting in long sleeves and sweatpants
with the garbage bag on.
For the rest, well, they say winter is like pump cover season. Like you hide the body to build the body, and then when the summer comes out, it's wha-bang.
Thing I like about
we should do a big reveal for me in 6 months after the season, and I've been training like hypertrophy and stuff. We should do like a big reveal, like make a big event out of that, and me taking off my shirt in public for the first time.
Oh god.
Okay.
Oh god.
We know someone who owns a tanning salon, so I'll just go and we'll self tan.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be summer by then, so you can probably get a normal tan.
All right. So, also, any more trends that you guys have seen over the last year? That you want to go over?
I don't know. Barefoot Training School.
All right, we already talked. We're not. We can talk about that.
One more minute.
I was just saying, it's good.
We can talk about avocado toast.
Oh, avocado toast. Yeah, I have avocado toast almost every morning. I'm basic.
So what's your protein source then?
It is what it is. Eggs.
Eggs, yeah.
No, I have Dave's Killer bread. It's my go-to. Dave's Killer with some avocado spread on both of those, about half an avocado, and then I'll do a mixture of eggs and egg whites.
Word.
Put some veggies in there. That's the go-to.
Dope. Tough. Any others?
I'm trying to think of some trends.
All right. So for female athletes, and I know it's weird. I don't want to keep talking about female athletes, and I mean, you understand. Just started there. Understand, like, we're in a program where we're studying exercise science. We're studying how different exercise routines, nutrition, and everything, like energy systems, affect the body for both women and men. So we're just speaking off of like what we've learned. But you see a lot of people, especially women, training like individual body parts. Like they'll be like, all right, this is my quad and like bend. This is like my quad and chest day. And then the next day they'll do a glute and back day. So it's like, all right, so if you want ample rest time, right, let's say you're lifting 3 to 4 times a week. You want ample rest time for your body to be able to grow, right? Because obviously they're trained to get like a little bit bigger, like in their butt, in their quads, whatever. So you need that ample rest time. And the exercises that you're doing with your quads, unless you're solely doing like leg extension machine work, you're hitting that same muscle like 2 days in a row. So I never get why some people train glutes and hamstrings and then like quads. Like it's like 3 different days during the week. I'm like, dude, you literally just trained legs 3 times. Like just because you did glute bridge on one day and squat on the other day doesn't mean your quads and your hamstrings and your calves and all that wasn't involved.
Yeah,
so
when it comes to team sport training, it's just a little bit different. So that like when you split up muscle groups and you think about isolating them, however you want to do that, and that kind of split, that's more bodybuilding-esque, right? When you really overload and hit a muscle hard, and then you do it with some frequency over time, that's how you really build muscles. That's how that works. Versus when you talk about team sports, I want full body stability and control. I want to make sure my core is, I want to make sure my core is stable when I'm doing movements like a row or a single leg, whatever. Right? I want a full integration of the chain because when we go and we move on the field, we're not going to be doing this. We're not going to be isolating a muscle group. It's always going to be all encompassing of how we're moving. So that's kind of how I think about that. But in terms of splits, the way I usually split it up, depending on the athlete, and for myself, this is what I'm doing: upper and lower splits. So 2 upper days, 2 lower days. And for me, that consists of squats and hinges are 2 movement patterns I base it off of for the lower days, and then push and pull on my upper days. And then you start working in different planes, and rotating, and going on single leg like I was talking about, and moving fast.
And also one more thing, because I know you want to talk about like training barefoot.
I got a couple questions too real quick.
I don't want to talk about training barefoot.
We're not, but if you had to wear shoes, what are you wearing? Are you wearing trainers, sneakers, or Converse?
Oh, trainers, sneakers, or Converse.
Yeah. So if you weren't training barefoot, right, would you rather train in training shoes, like lifting shoes that are pretty flat, Converses, or just sneakers?
Okay. With this, I always recommend that I always train in, and I have some Metcons on right now, which are what I've been training, which are a little thicker than I like, but what I always say is minimalist. And New Balance has a really good minimalist line, and I train in New Balances too. Pretty much the least support you can get while still being efficient when you're training, the better. Because this is another way of how I think about it. The more high-tech the shoe, the less high-tech the foot. Right? The more support and things you have going on, the less the ankle and the foot has to do to perform. So when you talk about the 3 different options there, whatever has less support, whatever demands more out of the ankle.
It's probably Converse.
Probably Converse, right?
I roll those sneakers because the sole isn't flat. It's like it's curved up and it's mushier depending. Like if I'm lifting in these as compared to you don't have, are those trainers on?
I guess you consider these trainers.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because
those are trainers.
I'll lift, like, if it's an upper body, I'll have Converses on, but if it's a lower, I use my Under Armours that we got at Campbell, because I love those, man. I love training.
People like
legs in.
High top blazers. I don't know if you've seen that trend.
High top what?
It's a high top version of these. I have a pair.
Brent's got like some white Nikes on.
It's basically Nike's Converse.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's built like a Converse, but I can't wear them personally because they're so narrow. My feet are not narrow at all.
Yeah.
So like
are those narrow?
These aren't. So the low tops aren't narrow.
Did you lift in those earlier?
No.
Okay.
The low tops aren't narrow, but the high tops are really. I think it's just because the way that you put the foot in, dude. It takes me like 5 minutes to put on the freaking shoes. It's nuts.
Yeah, I think that's another good point. So like minimalist and having less support demands more of your ankle, which is important. But also what you have on, and even these Metcons like have a big toe box, right? So like I guess they can't really see our shoes, but if I have a toe box like this, then if these are my toes, they can sprawl out and actually get traction and actually produce force and do those types of things. Versus if I have a shoe that comes to a point like this, like a lot of Nikes these days will be like this, especially cleats are big on that, then boop,
Air
my
Maxes
toes stick
are like
together,
that,
and I can't do the same things I want to do. So if you actually look at your foot, it's funny. I mean, maybe viewers will do this, but if you look at your foot, you take your shoe out and you look at how your toes are, you're usually going to be like this. They're all going to, instead of being all sprawled out and good and girthy and ready to grip the ground, they're usually going to be together and slanted to the side because of the long-term adaptation from the shoe and the socks that we always wear. So that's something that I think about.
That's a good point, because I definitely think the go-to shoes for lifting are any sort of skate shoe, so Vans, Blazers, Converse, all that type of stuff with a flat bottom. Like you talking about what you have on. And I never thought about too, like when I wear Air Maxes lifting, it is like a pointed head. So it is like, I do feel a little like I can't breathe, I can't plant, you know what I mean? So that's a good point.
Yeah. So did you say you had another question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's your go-to gym brand for like what you're wearing?
Ooh,
Suave.
In terms of like what I wear clothing in the gym?
Like, are you into that scene at all?
No.
You're not really a big influencer guy.
No, but I'll tell you that. Well, this is
That's Bear,
Nutrition. This is Big Bear I was talking about. I just like him because I know where he comes from. Like I started watching his YouTube channel when he has like 1,000 followers, and now he's blown up. He's one of the, I don't even know how many followers he has now, but he's blown up. And I know where he comes from, and I know he's honest, and he's a military guy.
Yep.
And like I can relate to him and his background, right? And I know he's giving me an honest product, so I have no problem investing or giving him my money because I think he's honest and I think he does the right things. And
I respect that.
But I also think Lululemon has good material.
So expensive.
I have one pair of Lululemon
Dude,
pants.
Never wore them, bro.
It's funny, Black Friday I had joggers in the car on Lululemon's website, and I was like, I can't, bro. Like, but yeah,
how much were they?
They were 80 instead of 120 or something. I think they were 80 or 90 instead of 120.
And like, if I'm gonna go pay 60 or 70 for like a pair from Under Armour, though, then I may have pulled the trigger on that. But then again, I also got 3 pairs of black Under Armour sweatpants for like cheap.
Yeah, I'm a hypocrite because I also I would spend $70 on a knock of shorts, which are freaking shorts.
Brent's a big brand guy.
But yeah,
Brent's a big brand guy.
Because you
shout out
look at feel good,
shout
dude.
out Raw Gear. Yo, it looks good. I like
Raw Gear, but
Raw
I'm
Gear
really,
stuff's good.
Young LA.
Young LA, yeah.
No.
Love their stuff, dude. Absolutely love their
Is
stuff.
that lifting gear too? Like
Lifting
athletic
and
apparel?
lifestyle.
You know who's got good stuff? Bro's Giving, I heard.
Oh, they're coming out with some stuff.
We're coming out.
Just wait, dude.
May want to be a shirt. May want to be a hat.
My other question, real quick. Same thing, gun to your head. What's your max song? You need to get the weight up.
Oh, let's go.
Get right, Richa. Migos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Migos.
Brent.
Respect it. For me?
Yeah.
Hold on. Where's my phone? Oh, we're filming with it. What have I been... Oh, my gosh.
Come on, Brent.
Dude, what is this?
Gun to your head.
I don't know why I'm drawing... Yeah, I'm dead.
You're dead.
But, go to yours real quick. Because I'm drawing a blank right now.
All right, No Love. Eminem. Lil Wayne.
Oh, probably Codeine Crazy by Monster. Or no, Throwaway. Not my bad. Not Codeine Crazy. Throwaway by Monster.
That's a good one, too.
Future. The Monster.
That's a good
I
one,
knew
too.
Eminem was coming from you, and that song I have to listen to. I probably know
Throwaway.
if I heard it. Yeah.
Well, I played it in the weight room like 8 times.
Yeah, so I
Remember, yeah. It was part of our ESU Max Week.
Yeah.
Max Week playlist.
Throwaway by Future. On the Monster
I mean,
album.
I have some, I said Higher Ground is one song that I would maybe max to.
Blue Notes. Blue Notes with Meek Mill was a really good one. Trying to think what else.
Yeah, my song, like Get Right With You by Migos, isn't even that hard of a song.
But
It just works for me.
Yeah.
It just works for me.
What's your best chill gym song?
Chill?
Chill. Like, you're just chilling.
Oh, then I'll play some country.
Oh, really?
Oh, you lift the country?
Yeah,
See, I
I
can't.
listen to country 24/7, but I can't do it in the gym.
I'll
I
listen.
just don't listen to country in the gym.
I could easily listen to country in the gym. So I guess if we're talking about chill, we're talking about chill gym music, which is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
I go some country.
An oxymoron, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Brent? Chill gym music? Yeah.
Chill jam music. I love Rod Wave,
yeah.
so I could just play Rod Wave 24/7.
Oh, Rod Wave's good.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Tuesday, all those guys, just like Euphoria and shit. It's like good, just like if you're just in there, like if you want to go on the treadmill. But yeah,
Yeah, I kind of listen to like some AJR sometimes. You know AJR?
oh yeah. What
They
do
do
they
like,
sing?
like 100 days.
100
week.
Bad Days made a.
Yeah, like I'll
100
listen to
good
them
stories,
sometimes, but I have a bunch. Like I'll listen to like some of the stuff like with Wale, maybe some Justin Bieber sometimes. Just all depends.
Bieber.
Yeah, because like Running Over with Lil Dicky.
That's a good song, yeah.
Actually, I played it on the speaker when I was chilling with Vic earlier, but just because like it was on my recently played. So, all right, Vic, last thing here. You want to be a champion. You have advice. You have to give one piece of advice to a young kid that's coming up, wants to play college ball, wants to lift weights, right? What's the one thing that you would give him? One piece of advice, real short here, that to help him be a champion, him or her.
Okay. A focus on developing yourself as a player and as a person, but don't go and showcase and pay money to go to college and team camps and go play a bunch of baseball. Like, baseball's important. Get those game reps in, but understand there's things you have to do to develop to the best of your ability as a baseball athlete or as an athlete in general. And that's getting in the weight room, and that's starting to understand nutrition and even taking care of your academics. So whether it be recruiting process, coming up, whatever it is, develop yourself before you're ready to show yourself on the field.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, dude. Victor, thank you so much, brother, for coming on. And
awesome.
I want to do some stuff next week, and I actually want to do some stuff more regularly. Where it's just a 20-minute conversation every 2 weeks, but I mean, that's just great content for both of our pages, right? And guys, look out if you made it to the end of the video, right? But we could just repost this as a separate clip. Bros Giving, we are going to be starting a fitness page because I know we have a lot of different content that we put out between podcasts and TikToks and stuff like that, right? We want to make a page that's just for training, just a place for you guys to go and get some new information. We'll be posting a lot of these clips. We'll be tagging Suave Strength, so you guys will have his information. We'll try and get Mark on with the Village. I know he has a lot of great stuff to say. We'll link some of his stuff. But other than that, guys, Happy New Year. Thank you guys for tuning in so much. Be looking out. We're going to be having Zach McCambley coming on again, a pitcher in the Miami Marlins organization, in the minor league organization, right? So he's going to be coming on. And again, watch out for some new YouTube videos. It's a new year, right? We got past some obstacles. Yeah. So we're going to be coming at you hot now with a lot of content, especially before the season starts. But even through the season, man, we're going to keep hitting it hard. So like, comment, subscribe on all the videos. Look up for TikToks. You can find this episode on YouTube and Spotify. But other than that, this has been DJ CJ. This has been Uncle Brent with Bros Giving. And our special guest, Victor Cruz of Suave Strength. So
Suave
we'll see you guys later. All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys soon.
See you.